Chapter 190. On this day, many posts requesting for support suddenly appeared on the game forum. One of the posts even attached a video. In the video, a huge battleship the size of an aircraft carrier was heading toward the battleship where the player was filming. It then slammed into the battleship he was in. The huge impact immediately tore the battleship they were in from the middle, and the entire battleship was cut in half. After the battleship sank, a large number of players fell into the water. A game notification appeared in front of the player who was filming. The battleship you are in has been sunk by the Zrio European battleship. The plundering ability has been activated. The total experience of your guild ship has been taken away by 1%. After realizing that it was the battleship of the European server players, the players who fell into the water wanted to climb up the battleship and kill the European server players. However, a storm was blowing on the surface of the sea. The huge waves swept all of them into the water, and they were strangled in the gradually forming whirlpool. At the end of the video, the screen dimmed. Many European server players jumped down from the huge battleship and began to pick up the random drops of the local server players on the surface of the water. This scene immediately caused a large number of local server players to be dissatisfied. Watermelon_Taro, where did they get so much money to build this aircraft carrier? Besides, this battleship is obviously here to mess with us. Shuali_the_strongest. Counterattack. Counterattack. I'm contacting the guild leader. Our great dragon battleship is ready to go out to sea and snipe them. Invincible_loneliness. This battleship must be more than level 10. It's really tough, but nothing happened after the collision. However, since they dared to provoke us in advance, there's nothing more to say. Let's fight. Ye_Schwer_the_cutest. This is ridiculous. I originally wanted to wait for them to develop in peace for a while, but they've started to take the initiative to plunder us. There's nothing more to say. Let's fight. Crayon_Shinchan. I guess this is the only battleship in the entire European server. Does sinking it count as destroying the entire European server's sea power? Laughing emoji? Immediately after, a large number of players began to log into the game and gathered toward the Liuli coast. According to the statistics, the super battleship from the European server had sunk more than 30 guild-level battleships of the local server during this period of time. The number of Spectre ships of various sizes had reached more than 100. This had completely infuriated the local server players. At this time, a large number of players had gathered at the safe zone docking at the Liuli coast. Nearly 10,000 guild-level battleships and hundreds of thousands of Spectre ships were docked there, ready for a big counterattack. At this moment, Lu Chai, the temporary commander, shouted, "The temporary army's live chat channel has been activated. Everyone participating in the battle, enter the army's live chat channel and spread this message." The other guild members who heard what Lu Chai said began to post the message on their guild live chat channel. A large number of players flooded into the army live chat channel that Lu Chai had set up. Soon, the number of people in the army's channel reached more than 2 million. The number of people is about right. This time, we're going out to sea to destroy the enemy and raise the prestige of our country. Following Lu Chai's order, the warships left the safe zone of the Liuli Sea and headed toward the Void Ocean. During the voyage, Lu Chai began to lay out his tactics. If such a large-scale encirclement were to appear en masse, the European server's super battleship would definitely choose to escape. Therefore, Lu Chai planned to lure the battleship out with a decoy ship before adopting the strategy of encirclement and annihilation. When the national server fleet sailed into the Void Ocean, Lu Chai led the fleet in the direction of Vulture Island according to the clues provided by the players in the forum. At this moment, the Great Dragon warship sailed out of the formation and moved forward. Lu Chai immediately shouted in the guild live chat channel when he saw the decoy ship being deployed. "Everyone, get into the water and keep the battleship. Don't get discovered. Suddenly, the players fell into the water like dumplings and kept the battleship. The huge fleet disappeared from the sea. Under Lu Chai's lead, they waited there quietly. At this moment, on top of the mast of the Zero Guild warship near the Vulture Island, Li Xing was holding the binoculars he bought from the shop and observing the situation in the surrounding sea. Just as Reinhardt had said, they had sunk a large number of local server players' battleships and plundered a wealth of resources. These resources could not be obtained by killing monsters. The high returns made everyone on the warship very excited because they knew that this kind of plundering was indeed feasible. At this moment, Li Xing suddenly noticed a blue battleship appearing on the surface of the sea not far away. "Brothers, there's goods coming, 11 o'clock direction." Jason, who was below, heard this and immediately had a thought. The Zrio warship under his feet let out a roar and quickly changed direction to head toward the direction that Li Xing had pointed. As the Zrio warship approached, the people of the Great Dragon Guild also noticed its existence. "Boss Lu, pay attention, I've lured them into the encirclement. Get ready to support them." At this moment, Chunziyu shouted in the army's live chat channel. He then quickly changed the direction of the Great Dragon warship and sped away. Lu Chai, who was lying in ambush a few nautical miles away, heard this and immediately replied, "Boss Chen, it's all up to you now. The brothers here are ready." At this moment Li Xing, who was standing on top of the mast, grabbed the mast with one hand and held the binoculars with the other. He observed the Great Dragon warship from afar and grinned. "Brothers, the prey is getting away. Speed up." There was a gap of 6 levels between the two warships. As the Zero Guild warship began to accelerate, the distance between the two warships continued to decrease. Seeing this, Chunziyu's face darkened. What he needed to do now was to ensure that this super warship would lead the local server players into the encirclement. However, it seemed that the warship was sailing too fast, far exceeding their expectations. "Great Dragon, activate your hegemonic form," Chunziyu shouted decisively as he looked at the Zero Guild warship that was less than 100 meters away. After the golden light of the hegemonic form enveloped the Great Dragon warship, the warship's speed increased. However, at this moment, a golden light flashed on the Zero Guild warship in the distance, and its speed increased tremendously. The distance between the two warships was instantly shortened. Looking at the huge ram suddenly coming from behind, Chen Ziyu's face darkened. The only miscalculation this time was that they had underestimated the strength of the European server's warship. Boom! There was a violent tremor, and the golden light on the surface of the Great Dragon warship was instantly torn apart. The ram smashed into the rear of the warship, smashing the entire aft cabin. The Great Dragon warship tilted, and the bow began to tilt under the pressure from the rear. "Ha ha ha, this warship has skills. It seems that the players on the ship have a lot of goods." Baldy Jason, who was standing at the bow of the ship, laughed out loud. The surrounding guild members also smiled as they watched the Great Dragon warship sink into the water bit by bit. The players on the warship also began to jump into the water one after another. Li Xing leaped down from the top of the mast and said to the guild members, "Old rules, 10 shots per person. Whoever hits the target gets to keep the goods." At this stage, their strength was not enough to fight against the local server players. Naturally, they did not dare to go into the water and fight them head-on. Instead, they used the spiritual energy cannon to kill the players who fell into the water. Seeing the incoming energy bullets, Chunziyu's face turned pale. He could not help but shout in the live chat channel, "Boss Lu, I've been sunk. Their warship is too fast. The operation has failed." Upon hearing Chunziyu's words, Lu Chai, who was lying in ambush in the distance, froze. After thinking for a while, he said, "Yi Shui bring the guild members to be the second decoy. However, you must pay attention to their speed. Return immediately if you're discovered." Chapter 191. Alright, Boss Lu. We'll definitely complete the mission. Yi Shui immediately summoned the guardian warship upon hearing the order. After the crew boarded, they began to sail toward the place where Chen Ziyu fell into the water. At that moment, near the Zero Guild warship, Chen Ziyu and the others attempted to jump onto the warship several times to fight the European server members. However, the continuous barrage of spiritual energy bullets knocked them down one by one, not giving them a chance at all. Although they could avoid the spiritual energy bullets by diving into the water, they could only do so for a short while. They would still be attacked when they surfaced. Under such circumstances, the members of the Great Dragon Guild were constantly being killed. Li Xing and the others on the Zero Guild warship laughed happily as they looked at the light orbs of spiritual materials and equipment floating on the surface of the sea, in a protected floating state. At that moment, a pink warship appeared in the distance, attracting the attention of Li Xing and the others. "Brothers, we have more goods. Hurry up and finish off the few underwater. The next round of hunting begins." A trace of mockery flashed in Jason's eyes. Following that, the spiritual energy cannon in his hand continuously fired into the water, killing Chen Ziyu, who had just surfaced with low health point. Dive into the water, pick up the resources, and then move on to the next target. Jason smiled sinisterly as he looked at the Guardian warship that seemed to have discovered their presence, and began to flee at high speed. After the members picked up all the light orbs of resources floating on the surface of the water, a loud roar came from inside the Zero Guild warship. The warship sped in the direction of the Guardian warship like an arrow released from a bow. "Boss Lu, the target is following us. He's too fast, we might not be able to hold him off. You better prepare another warship as bait." Yi Shui gritted her teeth as she looked at the Zero Guild warship that was expanding in her sight. Lu Chai's expression turned solemn. He did not expect the European server to have such a powerful warship. The Great Dragon warship and the Guardian warship were considered the top warships among the players of the middle server. However, they were so weak against this super warship from the European server. It was evident that this warship was of a high level. However, Lu Chai immediately began to prepare. He sent another warship in the direction of the Guardian warship. Just as Yi Shui had predicted, the Zero Guild warship caught up to their warship in no time. The huge ram of the warship poked a large hole in the tail of their warship, causing a large amount of seawater to pour in. Seeing the Guardian warship begin to sink slowly, the people on the Zero Guild warship could not help but cheer. This kind of crushing victory was very enjoyable for them. However, at this moment, another battleship appeared not far away. After this battleship appeared, it immediately changed direction and began to speed away. "This time, let's sink that battleship as well. We'll come back later to reap the harvest." With that said, Jason willed the Zero Guild warship to push over the top of the Guardian ship, which was already half submerged, and completely submerged the entire Guardian ship. "It seems like the original players are aware of our existence." Lionheart smiled. "You can take a look at the forum. They seem to be planning to encircle and annihilate us." Li Xing shrugged. Hearing this, the crowd could not help but burst into laughter. They had confidence in the Zero Guild warship. At the very least, its speed was unparalleled in this region of the sea. As long as they discovered a large number of enemies, there was no way they could not escape. But just as they were laughing, a dense swarm of heads suddenly appeared around them. Then, 1 ship, 10 ships, 100 ships, a large number of battleships emerged from all directions, stunning Li Xing and the rest. In the blink of an eye, hundreds of thousands of ships appeared around them, forming several lines of encirclement. "OMG, what's going on? How did we get surrounded? Where did they come from?" Jason looked around with a look of disbelief. **T, the 2 ships in front are bait. They've been lurking in the water since we got close, waiting for us to enter the encirclement," Li Xing said gloomily. "Quick, put away the battleship. We're going offline." Lionheart roared as he looked at the densely packed battleships around him. However, at this moment, on one of the original players' battleships near the Zero Guild warship, a magician player condensed a water ball in his hand and threw it at them. Pow! The water ball hit the surface of the battleship and scattered into water droplet. Battle status: unable to put away the battleship. Unable to go offline. The appearance of the game notification made the faces of the people on the Zrio warship darken. At this moment, they realized that they had fallen into an ambush. Although death was not scary, the price of being killed in different servers was a random amount of resources. At this stage, each of them had a large amount of resources on them. The price of dying once was not a small one. Moreover, if this level 12 super battleship was destroyed, the spiritual materials needed to repair it would cost a hefty sum. Ram them. Surround them. Magicians on the other battleships, prepare the cannons. Warriors and assassins, charge forward and kill them. Upon hearing Lu Chai's order, the battleships near the Zero Guild warship disregarded their losses and rammed into the Zero Guild warship, surrounding it in the middle. Meanwhile, the following battleships pushed forward, blocking the Zero Guild warship in the middle. At this moment, the distance between the battleships was extremely small. Warriors and assassins began to cross the battleships and rush toward the Zero Guild warship. They wanted to board the Zero Guild warship and engage in close combat. Faced with such a strong encirclement, many players on the Zero Guild warship were dumbfounded. They did not know what to do. As a large number of spells and skills surged, the protective layer outside the warship set off countless ripples. It seemed like it was only a matter of time before the warship was breached. There's still a chance. Stealth. We haven't used it before. Give it a try, Jason. Li Xing roared. He knew that if the original players boarded the warship, they would be dead meat. Upon hearing this, Jason hurriedly ordered the battleships to enter the water. Roar! A deafening roar was heard as the gigantic warship began to slowly sink into the water. Seeing that diving was effective, Li Xing and the others cheered. As long as they could dive into the water, it would not be a problem for them to escape from the encirclement. Lu Chai and the others who witnessed this scene were furious. They did not expect the warship to have such an ability. When the Zero Guild warship completely sank into the water, a black shadow appeared on the surface of the water and slowly sailed forward. All warships follow up. I don't believe that they can keep diving. Upon hearing the order, the fleet of warships began to change direction and surrounded the black shadow underwater as they advanced. An hour later, underwater, the members of the Zero Guild still looked grim. Navigating underwater was extremely difficult and their speed was limited. There was no way they could shake off their pursuers. If they continued to be followed, they would still be surrounded when they surfaced. They had thought of diving deep into the water so that the original players on the surface would not be able to discover them. However, this method did not work. These original players seemed to have some ability to lock onto them. No matter where they went, these warships would follow them. This made them have no idea how to escape from the encirclement of the fleet of warship. Under such circumstances, the members of the Zero Guild were very worried. By the way, we can go to the marine safe zone of the original server. We can't attack there and they can't do anything to us. Reinhardt suddenly suggested. That's right. As long as we reach the safe zone, they won't be able to harm us at all. Li Xing's eyes lit up. Ha ha ha, why didn't I think of that? There are still 2 hours left. We should be able to reach the safe zone. Quick, to the Lioli coast. Hearing Reinhardt's words, Jason laughed out loud. He quickly turned the ship around and sailed toward the Lioli coast. On the surface of the water, boss, something's not right. They seem to be heading toward the Lioli coast. That's our territory. Are they trying to die? A player looked at the tracking compass in his hand and said, Damn it, they're heading to the safe zone. Stop them. Lu Chai immediately roared in the army's live chat channel. Hearing Lu Chai's words, the players realized that the situation was not good. If they really let them run into the safe zone, they would not be able to fight there. It would be equivalent to them escaping. Suddenly, a large number of spells were fired toward the water. However, the Zero warship was too deep in the water and the spells could not reach it at all. Looking at the Liuli Sea area on the map that was getting closer and closer, Lu Chai's face darkened. "Boss Lu, I think I have a way to deal with him." At this time, a voice sounded in the live chat channel. On the third hour of following Zero, a huge battleship appeared in the safe zone of Liuli Sea. Behind him, countless battleships of various sizes surrounded him. "We've arrived safely." "Perfect." Li Xing and the others stood at the bow of the ship and looked at the angry gazes of the original server players. They were in a good mood. This was a safe zone, and all damage was nullified, so they were not worried about being sunk. "Sorry brothers, but we're safe now." Jason climbed to the top of the mast and laughed as he looked down. Looking at Jason and the others who were proud of themselves, a smile flashed across Lu Chai's eyes. He then shouted in the live chat channel, "Brothers, board their battleships." Following Lu Chai's command, a large number of players swarmed toward the Zero Guild warship. They climbed up the hull of the warship and boarded the deck one after another. When Jason saw this, he shrugged. "Brothers from the original server, this is a safe zone. It's protected. No matter how you attack, it'll be useless." Seeing more and more original server players boarding, Li Xing and the others could feel their anger. However, they were not worried at all because they were invincible in the safe zone. "Brothers, take out the heaviest thing in your space and sink it for me." Following Lu Chai's command, the players who had boarded the Zero Guild warship grinned and started taking out items from their channels. Seeing the original server players taking out items and throwing them on the deck, Li Xing and the others were stunned. They had no idea what they were trying to do. However, Li Xing soon realized the problem and quickly looked at the display panel on the hull. The weight 34/100, they want to sink the Zero Guild. Li Xing could not help but exclaim. Hearing this, the faces of the members of the Zero Guild turned pale. At this moment, they realized what the original server players were trying to do. F***CK brother, you actually hid 2 big rocks in your channel. That's awesome. IO, you're not bad yourself. You actually put a pile of scrap metal in your channel. Interesting. F***CK brother, you actually put an elephant carcass in your channel. You're a F***king genius. Brother who put a pile of crushed rocks in your channel, can I ask what exactly you're using it for? As more and more materials were piled up, the weight of the Zero Guild warship gradually turned yellow, then red. At this moment, someone suddenly started playing the theme song of the Titanic, "My Heart Will Go On, My Heart Will Go On," in the Army's live chat channel. In the midst of the music, the Zero Guild warship sank bit by bit. The original server players felt a sense of satisfaction in their hearts and began to cheer. Chapter 192. A smile appeared on Lu Chai's face as he watched the Zero Guild warship slowly sink into the water. He initially thought that their encirclement had failed once the Zero Guild warship entered the safe zone. However, a player made a suggestion. His idea was simple. They would gather the strength of the players and use the method of stacking resources to sink the invading Zero Guild warship. At the same time, in order to prevent the people on the Zero Guild warship from escaping after entering the safe zone, the player made a crucial suggestion to force the Zero Guild warship into battle mode. From the player's explanation, Lu Chai learned that there were loopholes in the marine safe zone in the current stage of the game. This was similar to when Cha Na invaded the Mansion of the Dead. At that time, the Mansion of the Dead was a safe zone. However, this did not apply to creatures other than the players. They could attack from within the safe zone and still force the players to enter combat mode. With that in mind, the players released a few tamed zombie wolves that had yet to be digitized before the Zero Guild warship emerged from the water. They used them to drag the Zero Guild warship, forcing it to enter combat mode once again and preventing it from going offline. In this state, They immediately boarded the Zero Guild warship and started stacking resources. Relying on the increasing weight, the Zero Guild warship finally collapsed and sank to the bottom of the water. Although the Zero Guild warship had the ability to dive, the 3-hour diving skills effect had already ended. The protective diving layer had already dissipated, and a large amount of seawater poured in. The Zero Guild warship's weight increased once again, and with the large amount of resources stacked on top of it, the ship sank deeper and deeper. The durability of the ship was rapidly decreasing. Soon, cracks began to appear on the surface of the ship. Under the expectant gazes of the original players, the Zero Guild warship finally broke apart and turned into a black fog. The members of the Zero Guild warship escaped the protection of the ship and quickly floated to the surface of the water. However, when they emerged from the water, they were horrified to see huge zombie wolves leaping down from the surrounding warships and pouncing on them. The original players' united counterattack won the final victory. The forum was filled with celebration. Crayon_Shinchan, you're still your dad after all. Haha, using the loopholes in the game to crush the super warship. Where's the brother who came up with the idea? You're a genius. Laughing emoji. Team leader of demolition officers. Indeed, this player is really imaginative. He made 2 suggestions. First, use the creatures from the outside world to put them into combat mode, then use the weights to crush them. Amazing! Crayon Shinchan. All the battle emojis have been added to the collection of emojis. Unable to bear the burden bubbling and sinking. GIF Shueli_the_strongest. Hee well done, brothers. Since they dare to take the initiative to attack us, we'll invade the land of Tsangshu after we kill the rock. Strike gold. Let them develop for a while longer. When the time comes, we'll pay them back double. Our Baiki army is the strongest. Invincible_loneliness. For some reason, I feel so good. It could be said that this naval battle had allowed many original players to feel proud and elated. The crisis of being harassed by this super warship in the void ocean for the past 2 days was finally over. In order to deal with the next invasion, the original players began to work hard to upgrade their warships and prepare for the next war. Because of this, the price of materials in the shop increased once again. This made Lu Wu, who was sitting behind the scenes, smile blossomed. This was because he would get a commission for every transaction in the shop. The depleted soul coin bank was once again replenished by a large number of soul coins. At this time, in the void ocean, a private specter ship was bobbing along with the wave. Who was sitting on the ship, was staring at the compass in his hand attentively. From time to time, he would look up at the surface of the water, as if he was trying to determine the location. At this moment, the value on the compass suddenly jumped. Then, the finger on the compass began to spin. It's here. He looked at the surface of the sea with a surprised expression on his face. During this period of time, he had tried more than 100 ways to refine Hitorigami. However, due to the huge difference in strength, it was difficult for him to even break through Hitorigami's surface defense, let alone refine it. After knowing that refining Hitorigami was not feasible, he spent a lot of effort to escape from the safe zone. Then, he decisively drove the Spectre ship and began his sea escape journey. After all, he did not dare to go to land. There were 2 nemeses there. No matter where he hid, he would be cruelly stabbed in the back and sent back to the safe zone. Feeling helpless, he decided to embark on the journey of searching for corpses at sea. He would only return when he was stronger. Originally, his plan was to look for islands that might have buried powerhouses. However, when he passed by the northern part of the void ocean, his compass reacted. Realizing that there were corpses of powerhouses here, he decided to go down and explore. Looking at the silly zombie spirit Cha-Na beside him, he opened the shop and searched in the special toolbar. Reluctantly, he bought a special diving suit and put it on. Once everything was ready, he jumped into the water. At the same time, he kept the Spectre ship and dived down. Although he had the protection of the diving suit, the temperature of the water still made him feel cold. The light swayed like ripples in the water. Looking down, it was pitch black. This gave Hu He the illusion that he was gradually diving into the mouth of a giant underwater beast. The deeper he went, the greater the water pressure. Until now, the limit of a human's diving was 332 meters. However, with the enhancement of his physique in the game and the protection of his special equipment, Hu He did not feel that it was too difficult to dive down to 500 meters. At this moment, Hu He was completely surrounded by darkness. Fear grew in this environment. The movement of the water around him gave Hu He the illusion that there was a giant water monster swimming past him. If it was not for his desire for the corpses of powerhouses and the guarantee that he would not die, Hu He would not have dared to do this. Since his vision was not clear, Hu He turned on the searchlight on his forehead. A strong beam of light suddenly shot forward, illuminating an area of about 10 meters in front of him. Suddenly, Hu He's face turned pale. At the end of the beam of light, a giant fish eye with a diameter of about 3 meters was staring at him. The blood veins in its eye sockets were clearly visible. What the F***ck? Hu He spat out a string of bubbles, his heart pounding. This feeling was much more exciting than watching a horror movie. He almost fainted from the shock. Giant grouper, spiritual fish. A docile giant spiritual fish that lives on seaweed and small shrimps. As if disturbed by the strong light, the giant grouper swung its tail and dived down quickly. In the blink of an eye, it disappeared from Hu He's sight. Seeing the giant grouper leave, Hu He was still in shock. He took out the compass and looked at the thick zombie energy. He hesitated. He felt that even his ancestors were not as hard-working as him. They dug corpses all the way into the sea. Was this considered as expanding his business? Anyway, I'm not afraid of dying. Hu He clenched his teeth and dived down again. After diving for about 200 meters, Hu He could feel the pressure of the water, making it hard for him to breathe. However, since he was already there, he would not give up. He continued to dive deeper. Behind him, Cha Na's zombie spirit followed him dumbly. After diving for a while, Hu He looked at the depth shown on the map and realized that he was already 1,200 meters underwater. Just as he was about to continue diving, a beam of green light shone from the right. Hu He was shocked and turned his head to look. A broken and decaying specter ship was slowly approaching from the right. The specter ship seemed to be very old. The hull of the ship was covered with a thick layer of green moss. However, what made Hu He feel strange was that on the broken mast of the specter ship, there was a kerosene lamp that was still emitting a green light. Every time the kerosene lamp swayed, the darkness inside the ship would appear and disappear. It was as if there were several black figures lurking around, baring their fangs and brandishing their claws. Hu He could not help but shiver at such a strange scene. Game, it's just a game. Hu He mumbled to himself, trying to cheer himself up. As the undersea specter ship slowly approached him, the compass on Hu He's body suddenly started to move. The numbers instantly turned red and a beep sounded. Beep, beep. The corpse of a powerhouse is in the specter ship? Hu He's heart skipped a beat. However, the horrifying specter ship in front of him made him hesitate. Looking at the specter ship that was about to pass him, Hu He gritted his teeth and muttered in his heart, "The timid will die of hunger, the bold will die of overeating." Then, he reached out his hand and grabbed the rotten wooden pole of the ship. His body followed the specter ship and slowly moved forward. After his body stabilized, he slowly landed on the deck of the ship. At that moment, Hu He waved at Cha Na's zombie spirit beside him. Upon receiving the order, Cha Na's zombie spirit immediately swam into the ship while Hu He slowly followed behind. Being in the endless darkness of the deep sea, there was no doubt that the psychological pressure was immense. It was like watching a horror movie. Even though one knew that everything was fake, the oncoming fear would still affect one's body. At that moment, Hu He was in the midst of a horrifying scene. This strange and horrifying atmosphere made him extremely tense. Phew! After taking a deep breath to calm himself down, he began to swim into the cabin. As he went deeper, he realized that there were still small creatures that lived on moss in the decaying specter ship. However, the interior space was very tight and all the objects had decayed. A light touch would cause them to scatter into a cloud of murky debris. The deeper he went, the stronger the vibration of the compass on his body became. When he came to a wooden door that had several holes in it, he stopped in his tracks. At that moment, Cha-Na's zombie spirit exerted force and the wooden door instantly broke into countless pieces, scattering in all directions. Fine wooden debris floated and spread in the light. He could not help but slide his hand a few times to get rid of the debris that was blocking his vision. Then, he slowly extended his head to look inside the wooden door. The light penetrated through the surface of the water that was dyed brown by the wood debris. A black skeleton with only half of its body left appeared in his sight. Seeing this skeleton, his face lit up. He knew that this was the target he was looking for. However, his expression immediately froze because he realized that this black skeleton was very strange. It seemed to have been bitten. The bones that connected the upper half of the body to the missing part were not complete. The fracture surface was very rough and there were several protruding bone spurs. It looked like half of the body was torn off at the waist. Although he was puzzled, he did not think too much about it. After all, he only wanted the corpse. So, he slid his arms into the room and swam towards the black skeleton. At that moment, the black skeleton's analytical data appeared. Mu-Te warrior. Character details. A member of the Mu-Te Empire who died in battle against the invasion of the Death Clan at the bottom of the sea. As a warrior of the Mu-Te clan, he was buried in the Mu-Te death coffin and drifted at the bottom of the sea, accompanied by a ghostly lamp. Strength level, middle stage ghost commander. Chapter 193. Mu-Te Empire? Death Clan? Looking at the explanation on the analysis menu, who was confused, once again looked at the half of the wreckage. I don't care what you are, I'll dig up your corpse. Thinking of this, he reached out and grabbed the black skeleton, then threw it into the space. Sigh, at this moment, a long sigh rang in his ears, giving him a shock. Just as he turned around to look for the source of the sound, the specter ship beneath his feet began to shake. Through the cabin, he noticed that the green lights outside the specter ship were flickering, as if something had happened. Moreover, he felt that the specter ship seemed to have sped up. His body floated backward and stuck close to the moss-covered walls of the ship. Something bad was about to happen. Realizing that the situation was not good, he quickly slid his arms and got out of the cabin. He swam towards the outside, trying to escape from this place. Two figures were in a flurry in the narrow passageway. They collided with each other as they moved forward, causing a large amount of sawdust to fly everywhere. Their vision also became cloudy. However, he couldn't care less. He had a bad feeling about this. Relying on the route in his memory, he spent a lot of effort and finally found his way out of the passageway, appearing outside the specter ship. However, when he looked forward, the scene in front of him shocked him. A bottomless trench appeared in front of him, and on the rock walls on both sides of the trench, pairs of green eyes blinked, and a huge snake-like body slowly floated up, probing toward the specter ship where it was. After staring at it for a while, he decisively brought Cha-Na's zombie spirit back into the ship. Dead Sea Viper. Creature details. Entrenched on the surface of the abyss of death, mutated from a black sea viper infected by the aura of death. The surface of the abyss of death? Looking at the bottomless trench, he felt that the specter ship's destination was the abyss of death. As the specter ship continued to descend, he felt that it was difficult to breathe. It was as if an invisible force was constantly squeezing him. The depth of the water on the map began to decrease. minus 2,500 meters to 700 meters minus 3,000 meters. At that moment, Hu He's face was flushed red. The blood in his body felt like it would burst out at any moment under the immense pressure. If not for the protection of the protective suit, he felt like he would have exploded on the spot. Glancing at Cha Na's zombie spirit, Hu He patted the corpse bag with a trembling hand and kept it. Then, he waited for death to descend upon him with a look of despair. Thinking of returning to the resurrection point again, Hu He felt aggrieved. After all, whether he could come out the next time was a problem. At that moment they had already reached 3,400 meters under the sea. Hu He's lungs were compressed into a ball, and he could not even take a simple breath. Not only Hu He, but even the Spectre ship's hull began to crack under the pressure as it dived deeper into the ocean. But at this moment, the lamp hanging on the mast of the ghost ship swayed gently, and a layer of green light slowly spread out like flowing liquid, covering the hull. Suddenly, the cracking of the hull stopped, and Hu He was surprised to find that the unbearable feeling had subsided. It seemed like they were saved. A look of relief appeared on Hu He's face. The feeling just now was really terrible. It seemed like while the lamp was protecting the hull, it was also protecting him. Hu He guessed as he looked at the lamp. But the crisis was not over yet, and the Spectre ship was still descending rapidly. Minus 4,000 meters, 6,000 meters, 8,000 meters. The speed of the descent was getting faster and faster. An underwater volcano that was emitting thick smoke appeared in Hu He's vision. The scorching red lava flowed down the sloping trench like a stream, falling into the endless darkness. 16,000 meters, 19,000 meters, to 500 meters. When the map showed that he had reached 30,000 meters under the sea, Hu He was dumbfounded. This was too exciting. He had actually reached 30,000 meters under the sea. What kind of concept was this? It had already far exceeded the deepest sea region on Earth that humans had ever explored. When he reached 35,000 meters under the sea, the speed of the ship's descent suddenly slowed down, and it began to move forward. Under Hu He's horrified gaze, a huge statue that emitted a green glow appeared not far away. As he got closer, Hu He estimated that the statue was at least 1,000 meters tall. At 35,000 meters under the sea, under such terrifying water pressure, the statue could still stand steadily. Hu He felt that this place was getting weirder and weirder. The Spectre ship slowly approached the statue. When the hull of the ship came into contact with the sculpture, the green energy suddenly dissipated and the hull of the ship collapsed. Just when Hu He thought that he was done for, a gust of energy appeared on the gigantic sculpture and enveloped him. Then, the energy slowly approached the sculpture. When he reached the top of the statue, the green energy layer suddenly expanded, pushing away all the seawater around it. At the same time, it enveloped the huge statue, forming a light green protective layer. Hu He landed on the ground. Looking at the light green protective layer above his head, Hu He felt that this place was very strange. It gave him the urge to rush out of the protective layer and return to the respawn point. After all, who knew what kind of demons and ghosts were here? However, when his gaze swept across a figure on the shoulder of the statue, Hu He's face froze. Wait. I'm not leaving. Mu Zhiguang, Advanced Ghost Emperor. Character details. The light of hope of the Mu Te Empire. Master of the power of death. After the fall of the Mu Te Empire, to avenge the annihilation of his clan, he presided over the Abyss and suppressed the Death Clan in the Abyss, main body. Character details? Seeing that the figure sitting on the left shoulder of the statue was actually a ghost emperor, who he suddenly did not want to leave. Although he could not refine a ghost emperor at this stage, he would definitely be able to do it in the future. Moreover, as a zombie forge master, how could he dislike having too many corpses? Therefore, he rubbed his hands and approached Mu Zhiguang with glowing eyes. He first circled around Mu Zhiguang twice. After confirming that Mu Zhiguang did not have any signs of life, he took out a short shovel from the space and knocked on Mu Zhiguang's head. Seeing that Mu Zhiguang still did not respond, He chuckled and reached out to grab Mu Zhiguang's shoulder, intending to put him into the space. Game hint: you cannot keep living beings in your personal space, He's still alive? He was surprised. The appearance of the game hint made He extremely conflicted. Although he really wanted it, he would die if he left this place. If he did not put it into the space, he would not be able to bring it back. Therefore, he also sat down cross-legged opposite Mu Zhiguang. He began to ponder on how to kill this ghost emperor who looked like he was half dead. After thinking for a moment, he lifted the golden shovel and smashed it towards Mu Zhiguang's head. He planned to test the hardness of Mu Zhiguang's body first. After all, not every ghost emperor had a body as strong as Hitorigami, who specialized in training his body. Bang! 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 After a series of smashes, whose hand was numb from the impact, stopped his attack. Why are you ghost emperors so tough? Don't you know to focus on training your inner body? The indignant he glanced at his personal space and took out a bottle of zombie poison powder that he had made himself, intending to poison Mu Zhiguang to death. Facing Mu Zhiguang, who had his mouth tightly shut, he picked up the shovel and began to pry it open. However, this trick did not work. He spent a lot of effort, but still could not open a gap between Mu Zhiguang's lip. He had no choice but to shove the zombie poison powder into Mu Zhiguang's nostrils. He was determined to kill him. After all, it was not the style of the zombie forge masters to leave such a big treasure behind. However, at this moment, Mu Zhiguang's eyes suddenly opened. 2 rays of black light streaked past Hui's body, penetrated the protective layer, and shot into the sea. Immediately, 2 black whirlpools appeared outside the protective layer. Black lightning could be vaguely seen in the whirlpools. Damn! He's alive! He was stunned. Seeing Mu Zhiguang's eyes slowly turn to him, who was holding the zombie poison powder, felt awkward. He slowly withdrew his hand and put the zombie poison powder into his space. Hello. Chapter 194. A trace of white appeared in Mu Zhiguang's dark eyes. His mouth moved slightly and an old voice appeared in Hui's ears. You're not one of my clansmen. How can you come here? Hui had never come into contact with the Mu Te clan before, so he was shocked by the voice that suddenly appeared in his ears. However, he really didn't know how to answer Mu Zhiguang's question. After all, he couldn't possibly say that he stole the remains of his clansmen and came here by chance. Why did Dim Lamp protect you? What is your relationship with my people? The old voice sounded in Hui's ears again. Ahem. This is a long story. Looking at Mu Zhiguang's empty eyes, Hui was embarrassed. His brain was working furiously as he started to make up a plot. Just tell me why you're here. Mu Zhiguang shook his head. As for the purpose, Boss Mu, do you know that your Mu Te Empire is gone? Hui said after thinking for a while. It's been destroyed a long time ago. How could it be gone? Mu Zhiguang's tone was calm. No, what I mean is that the remaining clansmen are all gone. Hearing this, Mu Zhiguang's indifferent expression finally changed. Mu Zhiguang had been sacrificing for his people all his life. Even though his people had once treated him as a heretic and wanted to execute him, in Mu Zhiguang's eyes, his people were still his people. This was a bloodline connection that would never disappear, and it was also something that he valued the most. Therefore, Mu Zhiguang could not remain calm after hearing that the bloodline of the remaining descendants of his clansmen had dissipated. Tell me why. This time, Mu Zhiguang's voice was obviously filled with anger. They were exterminated by the Sea King, the commander of the Sea King Navy. Hui was quick-witted. In the Crystal Palace, the Sea King was holding a huge golden wine cup and pouring wine into his mouth. However, his expression suddenly froze. At this moment, he had a bad premonition. At his level of strength, this kind of premonition might not be very accurate, but it would more or less be verified. This caused the Sea King to lose his cool, as he thought that another hidden force was about to make a move on him. Who is the Sea King? Why did he want to exterminate my people? The commander of the Sea King Navy, the overlord of the Void Ocean. Does he need a reason to exterminate your people? I just want to destroy them. He quickly explained. Mu Zhiguang, did my people ask you to tell me this? Mu Zhiguang asked. That's right. Why doesn't he come himself? Confusion flashed in Mu Zhiguang's eyes. He felt that He's words were not very trustworthy. However, since Yu Deng was able to bring him here, he had no choice but to believe it. He was already heavily injured. He left after sending me into the Mu Te coffin. A sorrowful expression appeared on He's face. He squeezed his eyelids twice, but no tears came out. I understand now. The new overlord of the Void Ocean, the Sea King? Looks like it's time to go out and have a look, Mu Zhiguang said as he slowly stood up. At this time, the statue under his feet began to shake, and countless wails came from below the giant statue. A large number of dark green figures swayed and expanded, constantly baring their fangs and brandishing their claws at the air. Humph! Following Mu Zhiguang's cold snort, the giant statue suddenly lifted its leg and stomped on the ground. Boom! The undercurrent surged, and countless wails immediately dissipated. The green figure that had originally appeared outside was instantly torn to pieces by this power. What's down there? He looked at the foot of the statue and asked. Just when the giant statue lifted its leg, he clearly saw a rotating black pit, and he could vaguely see countless twisted tentacles inside. The Death Clan, the emotionless abyss parasites, Mu Zhiguang said calmly. Are they the ones you're suppressing? What will happen if you let them out? He couldn't help but be curious. Let them out? Hearing this, a trace of anger flashed in Mu Zhiguang's eyes. After all, the Mu Taisi nation, which was once at its peak, had been destroyed by the Death Clan's invasion. The hatred of the Death Clan's annihilation had driven him completely insane. He had even charged into the abyss at the bottom of the sea with the determination to perish together with the Death Clan. However, during the decades of fighting in the abyss, Mu Zhiguang realized that the Death Clan could not be completely destroyed. They could only be suppressed and sealed. Back then, Mu Zhiguang was undoubtedly unwilling, but in the end, he still chose to suppress the abyss under the sea with his body. He planned to bury the Death Clan in the abyss forever, never to be revived. This was his revenge against the Death Clan in the abyss. Therefore, when He said that he would let them out, Mu Zhiguang couldn't help but be angry. Is there anything else you want to tell me? Oh, that's all. All right, I'm clear. After saying this, two black rays shot out from Mu Zhiguang's eyes, and He's body was instantly torn apart by the black rays, turning into black fog. Mu Zhiguang could feel that He was hiding something. Moreover, He was not one of his clansmen. Even if his clan was indebted to him, in Mu Zhiguang's eyes, it didn't matter. If he wasn't one of his clansmen, he wouldn't show any mercy. Then, Mu Zhiguang reached out and grabbed at the spot where He died. Mu Zhiguang, who was slightly stunned, grabbed again and again. His soul disappeared? Originally, Mu Zhiguang planned to extract He's soul and investigate it to see how much of what He said was true. However, he didn't expect the dead He's soul to disappear into thin air. This scene was a little strange to him. He controlled the power of death, so he could clearly sense that who was standing in front of him, had a soul. However, his soul suddenly disappeared after his death. This was beyond his understanding. After a moment of silence, Mu Zhiguang stomped his foot lightly. Suddenly, the huge statue shone brightly and the mud on its body fell off, as if it had come to life. Spirit of Mu Te, I'll leave this place to you for now. I'll go up and see what's going on. Roar. The huge water wave spread in all directions, as if answering Mu Zhiguang's reply. After giving the order, Mu Zhiguang's body turned into a black light and sped toward the sea. Lu Chai, who was eating grilled fish with his friends at the Liuli coast, was shocked to find that his right arm began to shake uncontrollably. "Boss, what's going on?" a guild member beside him asked curiously. "I'm not sure, it's shaking uncontrollably." Lu Chai was also shocked. "Maybe you've masturbated too much, take it easy," Sun Chi, who was sitting beside him, said subconsciously. "Get lost." At the top of the cliffs of desperation, the black skeleton beside the pillar pagoda also began to shake. At this moment, the white-haired old man's figure appeared and kicked the black skeleton. Instantly, the black skeleton stopped shaking. "Mu Zhiguang, the demon god, has appeared," the white-haired old man said calmly as he looked at the void ocean. "Who's stronger, you or this kid?" A pair of red eyes appeared at the top of the mountain, looking at the white-haired old man with a hint of mockery. "If he was in his complete form, he could play with me. But now, I'll give him a handicap of both hands," the white-haired old man said calmly after glancing at the red eyes. "Kid, you're bluffing," the demonic god laughed. "Oh yes, I don't understand. With your strength, why don't you seek forgiveness from the great emperor? As long as you pass the test, your name will appear on the underworld god list, and you can become a god recognized by the underworld. Wouldn't that be great?" the demonic god asked suddenly. "Beg forgiveness? That's boring. Actually, there's another way to become a god." The white-haired old man shook his head. Upon hearing this, the demonic god seemed surprised. His red eyes shrank. "You're really a lunatic." Upon hearing this, the white-haired old man smiled faintly. His white hair danced in the wind as he looked at the sky and murmured, "It's only interesting when there's a challenge. Otherwise, I'm afraid I'll be lost again." His robe fluttered in the wind, inadvertently revealing a waist tag with the word "and I" hanging on his waist. In the Crystal Palace, the Sea King, who was eating, was still thinking about why he had such a bad feeling. Suddenly, his expression changed and a piece of meat slipped from his mouth. Motherf *****. Which bastard did this? Chapter 195. In the north of the void ocean, a black light shot out from the bottom of the water and turned into a human figure in the air. At this moment, another blue light came from the south and appeared in front of the black figure. "It's really you, Mu Zhiguang. You're still alive." Looking at the familiar figure in front of him, the Sea King was shocked. Mu Zhiguang turned around slowly. When he saw the Sea King, he was also shocked. "Mu Hai, you're not dead?" Looking at Mu Zhiguang, the Sea King cursed in his heart. He kept muttering in his heart, "This bastard is still alive. What should I do? Will he take away my sea power again? Ha ha, little Hai, I'm so happy that you're still alive." Mu Zhiguang flashed and hugged the Sea King, who was still cursing in his heart. The Sea King was speechless. "I thought all my clansmen were dead. I'm so happy that you're still alive. I'm really happy." Looking at the smile on Mu Zhiguang's face, the Sea King was speechless. Sure enough, this clansman fanatic was still as silly as ever. Did you escape from the abyss under the sea?" the Sea King asked tentatively. "Escape? Why would I want to escape? I have been guarding the entrance of the Death Tunnel in the abyss of the ocean, because I want the Death Clan to never see the light of day again." Mu Zhiguang's eyes were once again filled with hatred when he mentioned the Death Clan. The Sea King was speechless. Initially, he thought that Mu Zhiguang had died in the abyss under the sea. He did not expect this guy to be suppressing the Death Clan at the entrance of the abyss for hundreds of thousands of years. Mu Zhiguang's strength once again made the Sea King feel a sense of defeat. "Then why did you come out now? What if the Death Clan comes out again? We can't be careless with such a deep hatred. I think it's better for you to continue guarding there. At least seal them for another 1,000,000 years. The Sea King said righteously. Mu Zhiguang's face was full of a warm smile. "No, I have more important things to do." "What bullsh****? Can't you just go back to where you came from?" The Sea King cursed in his heart. "I heard that my clansmen were bullied, so I decided to come and see what's going on." Mu Zhiguang said with a straight face. Who bullied our people? Didn't our people all die? The Sea King was dumbfounded. It's a guy called the Sea King. It's said that he has now dominated the void ocean. Since he dares to bully my people, I'll kill him. Mu Zhiguang's eyes were filled with killing intent as he spoke. The Sea King cursed in his heart, which made him feel very uncomfortable. He could not understand which bastard had thrown such a huge wok at him, and even spread it all the way to the bottom of the ocean. By the way, Little Hai, do you know the Sea King? Bring me to kill him. The overlord of the void ocean belongs to the Mu Te clan. Kill him and I'll hand over the control of the sea to you. You can continue building the new Mu Te Sea nation. The Sea King, ahem. That, Brother Guang, this is purely a rumor. You can't believe it. How could it be a rumor? A creature came to the bottom of the ocean to pass the message to me. Even if the Sea King did not bully my people, I still have to kill him. After all, the void ocean belongs to the Mu Te clan. How can we hand it over to outsiders? This made the Sea King very embarrassed. He did not know if he should tell the lunatic in front of him that he was the Sea King. Anyway, he was a little scared. What's wrong? Is the Sea King very strong? Mu Zhiguang could not help but ask when he saw the Sea King's conflicted expression. Don't be afraid. No matter how strong that guy is, as long as I gather all the body parts, he will definitely be no match for me. Mu Zhiguang patted the Sea King's shoulder like a big brother. Brother Guang, I'll tell you a piece of news. But you have to promise me that you will calm down and promise not to hit me. The Sea King thought for a while and said with a guilty conscience. He knew that since Mu Zhiguang had come out, it was impossible to hide the fact that he was the Sea King. Tell me, why would I hit you? You are my people. Even if you poke a hole in the sky, I will support you. Mu Zhiguang said with a smile. I am the Sea King. What? I am the Sea King. Your news is fake. Why would I kill my people? Besides, most of my people have turned into ghouls and were taken away by you. The remaining people might have escaped from the void ocean a long time ago. How could there be any people here? Mu Zhiguang's expression became a little unnatural as he listened. You said that your people are all dead? That's right. The Sea King clenched his teeth and said. Hearing the Sea King's affirmative answer, Mu Zhiguang's face instantly turned gloomy. He hugged the Sea King again with tears in his eyes. So you are the only one left. I feel so bad. The Sea King looked embarrassed. He wanted to push Mu Zhiguang away but found that he could not move him at all. After feeling sad for a while, Mu Zhiguang wiped away his tears and said, So, the guy who came to the abyss at the bottom of the ocean wanted to use me to kill you? He didn't even let the last of my people go. What a good plan, what a deep scheme. I was right to kill him. By the way, Little Sea, do you have any hidden enemies? Otherwise, why would they plot such a vicious plan to kill you? But don't be afraid. Since I am here, I will help you eliminate all your enemies. Mu Zhiguang said angrily while grabbing the Sea King's shoulder. Looking at Mu Zhiguang, the Sea King had mixed feelings. Back then, it was this guy who took away his Mu Te royal power. However, Mu Zhiguang was not greedy for power at all. He only cared about the interests of his people. However, Mu Zhiguang's words also made the Sea King want to use Mu Zhiguang to eliminate all his enemies at the current stage and expand his control over the ocean. Yes, I think Tong Gua the Ghost King's forces at the Liuli coast are behind it. They have been sending warships to rob my resources. Alright, I will help you. Thank you, big brother, the Sea King said awkwardly. At this moment, Mu Zhiguang's expression suddenly froze. I will leave for a while to deal with some matters. I will look for you later. Before the Sea King could reply, he saw Mu Zhiguang's figure in front of him disappear in a flash. At this moment, the Sea King was in a dilemma. He could not guarantee whether Mu Zhiguang's appearance was good or bad. However, with such a powerful lunatic around, the Sea King felt threatened. At this moment, a private spectre ship was sailing forward in the south of the void ocean. Lu Chai was sitting on the bed with a fishing rod in his hand. He looked at the sea and clapped his trembling right hand from time to time, cursing silently. At this moment, a black shadow appeared above the spectre ship and slowly landed on the ship. Clansman? No, but why do you have my power in your body? Mu Zhiguang asked curiously while looking at Lu Chai. Who are you? Lu Chai could not help but ask. Mu Zhiguang. Wow. Are you serious? Lu Chai immediately turned around. At this moment, Mu Zhiguang also noticed Lu Chai's right arm. There was a trace of nostalgia in his eyes. You have gained the approval of my right arm. You can become a member of the Mu Te clan. Looking at Lu Chai, Mu Zhiguang's eyes flashed with kindness. No. I just want to ask, did you lose your memory? What memory did you lose? Thinking of his mission, Lu Chai could not help but ask. Mu Zhiguang did not answer. He looked at Lu Chai and nodded again. You are very talented. You actually have the heart of a powerhouse. You are indeed a good seedling. No wonder my right arm chose to merge with you. Are you going to take it away? Lu Chai suddenly hugged his right arm with a vigilant look. No, I will give it to you. Mu Zhiguang shook his head. Hearing this, Lu Chai let out a sigh of relief. He was almost scared to death when he glanced at Mu Zhiguang's menu. He was really afraid that his right arm would be taken away by Mu Zhiguang. By the way, do you want to be my son? Mu Zhiguang smiled. What? Son? Lu Chai was dumbfounded. Chapter 196. Hearing Mu Zhiguang's unreasonable request, Lu Chai suddenly had the urge to jump up and smash his head. It was obvious that he was trying to take advantage of him. Could a ghost emperor do whatever he wanted? How about it? As long as you become my son, no one in this sea region will dare to bully you. You will also get endless training resources. After Mu Zhiguang found out that his clansmen were all dead, he attached great importance to the Sea King, who was the only one with the bloodline of his clansmen. This time, he was pleasantly surprised to see Lu Chai, who had fused with his arm. It made him want to recruit him into the clan. Looking at Mu Zhiguang's sincere face, the veins on Lu Chai's forehead twitched. No! I, Mu Zhiguang, have never had a successor in my life. If you become my son, Lu Chai immediately interrupted Mu Zhiguang. Stop. What son? Watch what you say. Don't think that you can insult people just because you are a ghost emperor. Mu Zhiguang was stunned. You don't want to be my son? I want to be your father, Lu Chai muttered in his heart. All right then, I won't force you since you are unwilling. However, you have my blood flowing in your body, so you are a member of the Mu Te clan. If you are in danger, you can summon me and I will help you. Mu Zhiguang waved his hand and a black ray shot into Lu Chai's right arm. At the same time, a game notification rang in Lu Chai's mind. Game notification. You have obtained a one-time use skill, Death Call, bound. Mu Zhiguang. After using this skill, Mu Zhiguang will hear your request and obtain your coordinates. Seeing that Mu Zhiguang was about to leave, Lu Chai quickly asked, By the way, what is your complete memory? You haven't told me yet. I'm not very sure. It seems to be a big secret about the Death Clan. However, this part of memory can only be awakened when all the body parts are gathered, so I don't know. Mu Zhiguang said calmly. Mu Zhiguang's words made Lu Chai dumbfounded. How could he complete the mission if the main body did not know what memory was? What about the rest of your body parts? Hurry up and gather them, Lu Chai quickly said. I originally wanted to gather the body parts, but since my right arm has fused with you, I don't want this part anymore. Doesn't that mean we'll never be able to gather them all? Lu Chai was stunned. Yes. At most, I'll gather a few others. Maybe I can unlock some memories. I'll tell you when the time comes. Mu Zhiguang smiled, and then his figure slowly faded. Looking at his right arm, Lu Chai felt a little depressed. This mission was getting more and more difficult. However, Lu Chai had another option, which was to kill Mu Zhiguang when he was strong enough so that he could collect all the body parts. However, he was a loyal person. Although he was unhappy that Mu Zhiguang wanted to take him as his son, he could see that Mu Zhiguang had no ill intentions, so this made him even more conflicted. Beiki Liuli Coast. Tong Gua was drinking and playing cards with Yi Chen and his friends on the beach when a black figure suddenly descended from the sky, attracting their attention. The figure stayed on the coast for a while before slowly dissipating. When it reappeared, it was already beside Tong Gua. The soul of a ghost king, but the body is extremely fragile. How rare! Mu Zhiguang said curiously as he looked at Tong Gua. Who are you? Tong Gua threw the card on the ground and pointed at Mu Zhiguang. Mu Zhiguang. What bullsh *T Mu. Tong Gua was about to continue cursing, but his expression gradually turned into one of horror. You are Mu Zhiguang? The former king of the Mu Taisi nation? Tong Gua seemed to be in disbelief. Yes. Mu Zhiguang nodded. You're not dead. It seems that many people thought that I was dead. Mu Zhiguang smiled. Oh yeah, I heard that there's a ghost king Tong Gua here who has reached the peak of the ghost king realm. Do you know where he is? Tong Gua had already realized that the situation was not good. He immediately coughed twice. I think he went out to sea and hasn't been back for a long time. Isn't that right, brothers? Mu Zhiguang heard this and glanced at Yi Chen and the others. Yi Chen and the others shook their heads decisively, looking as if they had no idea either. Mu Zhiguang, who could not get any information out of them, looked regretful and then disappeared on the spot. Damn, this lunatic is here. This is going to be fun. Tong Gua looked at the place where Mu Zhiguang had just stood and said with a pained expression, Who's Mu Zhiguang? Yi Chen and the others asked curiously. He used to rule the Void Ocean and was the overlord of the Void Ocean before the Sea King. He also has another identity, which is the Sea King's clansman. In terms of identity, he should be the Sea King's immediate superior. Tong Gua's words made everyone's faces turn solemn. They knew that this matter was not going to be easy to handle. After all, they were currently in a heated battle with the Sea King. The sudden appearance of such a powerful opponent would greatly increase the Sea King's advantage, and it was likely that an all-out war would be triggered in advance. But as far as I know, he should have died in the abyss at the bottom of the ocean. Why did he suddenly appear? Could it be that someone went to the abyss and rescued him? Tong Gua could not help but start guessing. At the peak of the cliffs of desperation, a black figure appeared and then quickly swept toward the black wreckage beside the pillar pagoda. At this moment, the white-haired old man's figure also appeared and blocked the black figure. I'm here to get my things back. Mu Zhiguang's figure appeared and said to the white-haired old man, I heard that you went to the abyss at the bottom of the ocean. I thought you were dead, the white-haired old man said with a smile. I'm here to get my things back. Are you going to stop me? Mu Zhiguang's face turned serious. Your tone of voice pisses me off. What can you do if I don't give it to you? Do you think you can defeat me in your current state? The white-haired old man said without any hesitation. I can't. Mu Zhiguang answered honestly. But if we were at the same level of strength, you would definitely not be my opponent. Mu Zhiguang said again, as if he felt embarrassed. The white-haired old man heard this and could not help but laugh. Do you know the previous Mu Te, king of the Mu Taisi nation? What do you think of his strength? Mu Zhiguang nodded. The king is very powerful. If it wasn't for the battle with Tao Wu that exhausted his life force, his strength should be similar to mine when I was at my peak. The white-haired old man grinned and waved his hand. Light spots scattered and an image appeared. Stop fighting, stop fighting. I promise you that the Liuli coast will belong to you. I will never invade. As the voice appeared, a blue-skinned burly man with a naked upper body was pressed on the ground and hammered continuously. His face even began to deform under the violent blows. Mu Zhiguang was stunned to see the dignified king of the Mu Tai-Si nation scurrying away like a rat. Do you know now? My Liuli coast was snatched from the Mu Tai king. So, your strength is really not enough. The white-haired old man laughed sinisterly. Mu Zhiguang clenched his fists. When he thought of how the person in front of him treated their king, he was filled with anger. What? You want to fight me? Once I attack, I won't be able to stop. Who knows, I might kill you. Think about it carefully. The white-haired old man continued to threaten him with a sinister smile. Mu Zhiguang took a deep breath and his expression became solemn. King of Beiki, I am not your opponent now, but I will definitely surpass you in the future. This body is with you, I will take it back. Seeing that Mu Zhiguang was about to turn and leave, the white-haired old man suddenly stopped him. Hey, don't go. Who said I won't give it to you? You can take it away if you want, but you have to promise me one thing. Mu Zhiguang frowned when he heard that. King of Beiki, what do you want me to promise you? The white-haired old man chuckled. Don't call me King of Beiki. I am no longer the King of Beiki. Moreover, the land of Beiki is not under my control now. I hope you understand. As for my request, it's very simple. If a war breaks out between you and Beiki, you must not take part in it yourself. Mu Zhiguang was stunned when he heard that. What do you mean? Since you are out, you must want to rebuild the Mu Tai-Si nation. This will inevitably lead to a conflict with the forces of Beiki. I don't care about that, but you have to promise me that you must not take part in it no matter what. Since you are no longer the king of Beiki, why do you still care about the forces of Beiki? Mu Zhiguang asked in confusion. Don't ask too much. Do you agree or not? If you don't, I will grind this black skeleton into powder and drink it later. My body has been failing lately, it needs nourishment, the king of Beiki threatened. Mu Zhiguang felt wronged, but he could not defeat the old man. It was a terrible feeling. Do you agree or not? Give me a straight answer. The white-haired old man reached out and sucked the black skeleton into his hand. Mu Zhiguang shuddered when he saw the white-haired old man's fingers pressing on the black skeleton. He had met countless strong enemies in his life, but it was the first time he met such a powerful and ungentlemanly person. Mu Zhiguang took a deep breath and nodded. I agree, I won't take part in it. Give it to me. That's more like it. If you didn't agree just now, I might have torn your body into several pieces. The white-haired old man looked satisfied. Mu Zhiguang was speechless. After receiving the black skeleton thrown by the white-haired old man, Mu Zhiguang's eyes revealed a trace of nostalgia. The black skeleton in his hand began to melt slowly, turning into a ball of black liquid that seeped into his body. Suddenly, an evil wind blew in the surroundings, and a black energy mist appeared. It quickly spread and then shrank back into Mu Zhiguang's body. The Ghost Emperor is halfway to the peak. Not bad. Not bad. The white-haired old man said, nodding as he saw Mu Zhiguang's cultivation level increasing rapidly. Mu Zhiguang clenched his fists and the familiar power reverberated in his body. Then, he looked at the white-haired old man. I'll do what I promised you. All right, let's go. I need to go back and catch up on my sleep, the white-haired old man said as he stretched and disappeared with the wind. Mu Zhiguang saw the white-haired old man leave and was about to leave as well. Suddenly, he noticed that the pillar pagoda at the peak of the mountain seemed to be a little special. He could not help but go closer to check it out. Just as Mu Zhiguang was about to reach out to check it out, a voice suddenly appeared in his mind. Kid, are you itching for a beating? Try and touch it. Who's that? Mu Zhiguang's expression froze. He was sure that the voice just now did not belong to the white-haired old man. The pillar under your feet is mine. Who do you think I am? The demonic god's arrogant voice sounded again. Mu Zhiguang immediately looked down. His pupils were gradually covered by darkness. His vision penetrated the soil layer and continued to go deeper. Then, Mu Zhiguang saw a huge body that was tied up by tens of thousands of chains. The demonic god was looking up at him with a hideous smile. The demonic god! Mu Zhiguang was horrified. He had always known that an ancient demon god was sealed in the land of Beiki, but he did not expect it to be sealed here. Chapter 197. Mu Zhiguang was shocked when he felt the powerful aura contained in the tens of thousands of intertwining chains. He did not know who had such powerful strength to be able to seal the demonic god. However, after knowing that the demonic god was below, Mu Zhiguang did not dare to stay any longer. He was afraid that the demonic god would kill him out of anger. His figure flashed and disappeared from the top of the cliffs of desperation. Trash! At this moment, the demonic god, who was buried deep underground, shouted. Meanwhile, Tonghua and the others were still playing cards by the Liuli coast. Tonghua's eyes were bloodshot after losing money again. He took off his clothes angrily and threw them on the ground. Bastard, how could Master Tonghua lose? Did you guys cheat? Yi Chen and the others burst into laughter. As they were about to say something, they suddenly froze and stopped talking. Tonghua was stunned when he saw their reaction. He followed their gaze and turned around, only to find that Mu Zhiguang was standing behind him. So, you're Tonghua. Mu Zhiguang's face was filled with murderous intent. After all, this person was his brother's opponent and the target that he had wanted to kill. Ahem, maybe you heard wrong. I said a flush. Do you know a flush? We're playing cards. Tonghua tried to explain. Mu Zhiguang shook his head. If it was just now, I would definitely kill you. But now, I'll leave this opportunity to Little Hai. Mu Zhiguang sighed as he thought of the agreement he had with the white-haired old man. His figure once again swept toward the sea. Tonghua, who was lucky enough to survive, heaved a sigh of relief. He thought of how he beat up the Sea King and thought that Mu Zhiguang would never let him go this time. Void Ocean, Crystal Palace. The Sea King looked at Mu Zhiguang in disbelief. Did you say that Tonghua's strength is fake? He doesn't have any strength in his body? How is this possible? I've fought with him before. I've seen his strength with my own eyes. I can't be wrong about his strength. If what you said is true, I think I know the reason. It must be the Beiki Divine Clan's Tome of Apotheosis. God's Tome of Apotheosis? What's that? The Sea King was stunned. There was once a female deity with the surname Bei in the land of Beiki. Before she disappeared, she left behind a godly tome. She told her descendants that as long as they understood this godly tome, they would be able to become gods. After the disappearance of the Bei deity, the Mu Te clan also participated in the battle for this godly tome. Although we failed, I've read the literature left behind by our ancestors. It was recorded in it that all the creatures in Beiki who cultivate according to this godly tome will have their cultivation become extremely unstable. When they're weak, they're even weaker than ordinary beasts. Upon hearing this, the Sea King's expression changed. I remember now. That's what happened. Tonghua, who couldn't even stand properly before, suddenly became stronger. During the last battle with me, when he roared return to simplicity, the cultivation in his body dissipated again. At that time, I thought he was going to use some amazing divine skill, but I didn't expect it to be a disguise. F***CK, to hell with the return to simplicity. The Sea King became angrier the more he thought about Mu Zhiguang's explanation. What do you plan to do next? Mu Zhiguang asked. Since you're here, I'll expand my sea power domain and seize Liuli district. I can help you in other battles in the sea, but I don't think I can help you in Beiki. Why? The Sea King couldn't help but ask. Don't ask. In short, I won't do anything unless there's a powerhouse above the Ghost Emperor level. If you want to take down Liuli and take revenge, then you have to do it with your own ability. Besides, it shouldn't be difficult for you to take down Liuli, right? Since Tonghua's strength is just a disguise, Liuli is not a problem at all. Before this, they sent people to rob my resources. I was afraid of Tong Gua, but now I have nothing to fear." Upon hearing this, Mu Zhiguang nodded in relief. Then, he reached out and patted the Sea King's shoulder. "Do it. With your strength and your Sea King navy, as long as there's no Ghost Emperor-level powerhouse, Tong Gua won't be able to stop you." Upon hearing this, the Sea King nodded. Then, he stood up and said to his subordinate who was standing not far away, "Water Dragon, give the order to all the legions to get ready. 5 days later, I want to take down Liuli." Lu Wu and Bai Li had already noticed Mu Zhiguang's appearance when he entered the abyss under the sea. What made Lu Wu speechless was that every time he caused trouble, the outcome was always to increase the difficulty of survival for the players. Could it be that this guy's fate was incompatible with the other players? However, Mu Zhiguang's appearance also worried Lu Wu. He was afraid that his presence would make the Sea King, who had gained a huge advantage, no longer fear Tong Gua and declare war on the players. With the players' current strength, there was no hope of winning if they were to face the Sea King navy head-on. Moreover, Lu Wu noticed that there was a huge change in the Sea King navy after Mu Zhiguang's appearance. From the discussions of the players in the forum, it could be seen that the Sea King navy seemed to have assembled on a large scale. This was not a friendly signal. The Sea King had visited Liuli several times before, but he only brought part of the Sea King navy's forces with him. This time, he actually began to assemble the forces of the 4 legions. If this battle was really aimed at Liuli, Lu Wu knew that he should consider the players' retreat route. Beiki, barren grassland. The land to the west of Beiki was overgrown with dense yellow withered grass. It was a desolate and lifeless land. At this moment, Gu Yu and the dog were shuttling through the grass, advancing toward the west. "Boss, why are we looking for the Earthbreaking clan?" the dog asked curiously as they ran. Some players in the forum said that the Earthbreaking clan has the Earthbreaking stone. This material is an important item for rune masters to activate the special gemstone, the Mountain Breaking Stone. "I want to see if I can exchange some spiritual materials with them." "You're not a rune master, what's the use of exchanging it?" "For the guild members to use it." "What if the Earth-Breaking clan doesn't want to exchange it?" the dog asked again. "If they don't want to exchange it, we'll eat dog meat." Guyu could not help but glare at the dog. The dog was speechless. This barren grassland was different from the other areas of Beiki. There were very few beasts nearby, which might be related to the lack of food sources in this area. Both of them did not encounter any beasts along the way. "Boss, where are the Earth-Breaking clan? My legs are sore from all the running." "Wait!" Guyu stopped and opened the photo album function. He flipped through the pictures he had saved from the forum to see if they had arrived at the destination. "Boss, look, look!" The dog suddenly pulled on Guyu's trousers. Guyu heard it and turned around. He immediately saw a yellow boy with a runny nose looking at them and smiling foolishly on a pile of grass not far away. Lai Xiaolang, Earth-Breaking clan. Character details. Member of the Earth-Breaking clan, an ancient force of Beiki. I found him. Guyu was pleasantly surprised. He quickly brought the dog to the boy of the Earth-Breaking clan. "Hello, can you bring me to meet your elders?" Guyu waved his hand in front of Lai Xiaolang, trying to get his attention. Lai Xiaolang turned around foolishly and looked at Guyu, then at the dog. He reached out and pulled the grass rope beside him. Suddenly, a big net made of grass rope appeared from the ground. It entangled Guyu and the dog and hung them in the air. "I caught him." Lai Xiaolang continued to smile foolishly. Chapter 198. The sudden appearance of the rope net caught Guyu and Sun Qi off guard, and they were immediately trapped. Looking at Lai Xiaolang, who was still giggling, the dog bared his teeth and waved his claws, trying to tear the net apart and escape. However, the net was made of an unknown material that was extremely tough. Even his sharp claws could not tear it apart. "Dad! I caught it!" Lai Xiaolang began to shout at the top of his lungs. Gu Yu and Sun Qi were scared out of their wits. After all, the natives in the game were capable of anything. Although they did not go to the Gillfish Island, they knew that it was a traumatic experience for many players. They thought that they were going to experience the same thing. Both of them began to struggle, but the net was very tough. No matter how hard they struggled, it was useless. After a while, two figures in khaki armor appeared in the distance and quickly ran toward them. "Dad! I caught the Earth Spirit!" Lai Xiaolang sniffed his dripping nose and shouted again at the top of his lungs. When the two figures came to Lai Xiaolang's side, they first looked at Gu Yu and Sun Qi, who were trapped in the air, then slapped Lai Xiaolang's head. "Is this the Earth Spirit? How many times has it been? You're messing with me again. I'm so angry." The burly man seemed to be still angry after slapping Lai Xiaolang to the ground. He immediately took a step forward, but the fat, brown-skinned woman beside him reached out and stopped him. "What? Are you stopping me from beating him again?" Lai Delong asked angrily. "No, I'll beat him together with you this time." As she spoke, she walked forward, picked up Lai Xiaolang, and began to beat him up. After she was done, she threw Lai Xiaolang to Lai Delong, and began to beat him up again. "Gu Yu, Sun Qi, boss, I'm a little scared." Sun Qi felt a little guilty seeing such a brutal scene of domestic violence. "I feel that this kid looks silly. It's probably because he was beaten up," Gu Yu said with fear. After tossing him back and forth for 5 or 6 times, the two finally stopped. Lai Xiaolang's body was swollen, and he was crying loudly. However, his cries were still full of energy, and he did not look like he was seriously injured at all. At this moment, Lai Xiaolang's parents looked at Gu Yu and the dog. "Sorry, outsiders." After saying that, Lai Great Wolf reached out with his hand. The net suddenly loosened and the two of them fell to the ground. I'm really sorry, Little Wolf is still underage, so he's a little retarded. Please don't mind him," Lai Delang said honestly. Being able to survive until adulthood was already a miracle. Gu Yu and Sun Qi complained in their hearts. It's okay. What are you guys catching?" Gu Yu asked curiously as he looked at the rope net scattered on the ground. "Oh, we're catching Earth Spirits," Lai Delong said as he took out a watermelon-sized ball from his pocket. This pearl was very strange. Not only did it have a mouth and a nose, but its eyes were also blinking. It was completely a living creature. Earth Essence, Level 9 Spiritual Material. Item Details. A spiritual material unique to the barren grassland of Beiki. It's a semi-living and semi-spiritual material. It will grow into a king-level spiritual material when it matures. Treasure. Gu Yu and the dog's eyes lit up. "What's the use of this thing?" Sun Qi raised his paw and asked curiously. "It can detoxify poison. Do you know why my little wolf is so retarded?" Lai Delang pointed at Lai Xiaolang, who was still crying. "I don't know." Both of them shook their heads. "That's because he ate too many earth-breaking stones and was poisoned. That's why he's always in a trance and is not sensitive to the outside world." Lai Delang looked at Lai Xiaolang resentfully. When he saw that Lai Xiaolang was still crying, he could not help but throw the Earth Spirit in his hand at him, knocking him to the ground. Hearing earth-breaking stones, both of them were shocked. Wasn't this their purpose for coming here? By the way, why are you here? Don't you know that this is the forbidden land of Beiki? Lai Delang could not help but ask. Gu Yu and Sun Qi were speechless. To players like them, the forbidden land did not exist. However, they could not say that, so they said, "We really don't know, but why is this a forbidden land?" Lai Delang nodded in realization. "So you really don't know, but I advise you to leave as soon as possible. This is a forbidden land set by the king of Beiki. Outsiders are not allowed to enter. What happens if we violate the forbidden land?" Sun Qi could not help but ask. "I don't know, I guess we'll be sentenced to death by the king of Beiki." Lai Delang shook his head. "What's the name of your king of Beiki?" Yu seemed to have realized something. Who else could it be? Of course it's Lord North Sea. Lida Lang answered immediately. Yu and Sun Chi looked at each other and suddenly thought of the expired Baiki King's order they saw at the Cliffs of Desperation. Brother, don't you know that Lord North Sea has been buried for a long time? Sun Chi asked tentatively. Yu's heart skipped a beat when he heard the dog's words. He wanted to stop him, but it was too late. Lai Dalong's figure flashed and appeared beside the dog's body. He picked the dog up and started beating his face. Ow ow ow. Sun Chi struggled and howled, but Lida Lang's strength was not something he could resist. He could only look at Yu in despair. Yu saw this and silently took a step back. After beating Sun Chi until he was on the verge of death, Lida Lang threw him on the ground. Little animal, I advise you to be kind and watch what you say next time. If you dare to disrespect the king of Baiki again, I'll beat you to death. Sun Chi heard this and curled up on the ground. He did not dare to speak and just cried silently. Was this how a person should live? He would be beaten even if he told the truth. At this moment, Lida Lang looked at Yu. Yu immediately said, "He's alive and well. The land of Baiki is prosperous and the people are safe under his rule." Lida Lang nodded. "All right, since you don't know the rules, I won't blame you. Get out." Since he was already here, Yu naturally did not want to leave. He immediately said, "I heard that you have the earth-splitting stone. I'm willing to exchange it with other spiritual materials. Are you willing?" Lida Lang was stunned when he heard this. He then said, "What spiritual materials can you use to exchange?" Yu saw that there was a chance and immediately took out a pile of spiritual materials from his space. "I have everything, what do you want?" Glancing at the spiritual materials that Yu took out, Lida Lang looked at his wife, who was standing not far away and holding on to the unconscious Lai Xiaolang. "Ask the leader, I don't know either." The woman shook her head and answered. "Although the earth-splitting stone is not precious to our clan, we can't make the decision to exchange it. However, I can bring you to the leader and see what he has to say." Lida Lang turned around and said to Yu. Yu was delighted and quickly nodded. He then grabbed Sun Chi, who was lying on the ground, and walked forward with Lida Lang. After following Lida Lang and the others for about half an hour, Yu and Sun Chi finally arrived at the land of the Earth-Breaking clan. This was a huge clan base. Apart from houses made of mud, there were also towering pagodas. As Yu and Sun Chi walked on the road, they immediately attracted the attention of many people from the Earth-Breaking clan. Lida Lang brought Yu and Sun Chi to a pagoda. He then stopped and knelt on one knee in front of the pagoda and shouted, "Leader, there are outsiders asking to see you. They want to exchange spiritual materials for our clan's earth-splitting stone." Soon, there was a commotion in the pagoda. The door opened and a tall giant walked out. Yu raised his eyes and glanced at him. Lai Shan, middle-stage ghost emperor. Character details: the king of the Earth-Breaking clan, an ancient clan of Baiki. He participated in the battle for the first king of Baiki and was one of the strongest contenders for the throne. After losing the battle, he voluntarily pledged his loyalty to the North Sea and swore never to betray it. Character status: normal. After Lai Shan appeared, Lida Lang respectfully bowed to him. "Are you the one who wants the earth-splitting stone?" Lai Shan lowered his head and looked at Yu. "Yes, I have a lot of spiritual materials here. Do you?" Before Yu could finish, Lai Shan waved his hand and interrupted him. He then pointed at Sun Chi and said, "I don't want your spiritual materials. I can give you a lot of earth-splitting stone, but you have to exchange it with your pet, the White Phantom." When the dying dog heard this, he immediately became energetic and grabbed Yu's arm with his paw. Yu looked at Sun Chi. Although he really wanted to sell him out, he still said, "Leader of the Earth-Breaking clan, this is my friend. I'm afraid I can't give it to you, but I can give you a lot of spiritual materials in exchange for the earth-splitting stone. Unless it's a king-level spiritual material, Other spiritual materials are completely useless to me. Think about it again. I won't exchange it. I won't exchange it. I'm not a thing. Sun Qi stubbornly raised his head and looked at Lai Shan. However, he hugged Gu Yu's arm even tighter. The White Phantom can talk. Lai Shan's eyes widened as if he had seen a ghost. Chapter 199. Lai Shan had been in Beiki for so many years that he naturally knew about the White Phantom. However, it was his first time meeting one that spoke. He was surprised. Could it be a mutation? Lai Shan asked curiously. I'm a human, the dog bared his teeth. Gu Yu pressed on the dog's head and raised his head. Earth-breaking clan leader, is there nothing else that you want besides the king-level spiritual materials? Even if I want it, you can't give it to me. Maybe you can consider exchanging the White Phantom with me. I'll give you a lot of earth-breaking stones and even an earth essence. Gu Yu looked at the dog. He didn't expect this little thing to be so valuable. Although he could trick Lai Shan into giving the dog to him, he did not want to offend the earth-breaking clan. It was fine to use this method on the hostile Shao Tian, but it was not suitable to use it on the Ghost Emperor level Lai Shan. He did not want to make such a strong enemy for the players. No, earth-breaking clan leader. Gu Yu shook his head. Then there's nothing to talk about. You can leave. If it was in the past, I would definitely take what I want. But now, I'm following the king of Beiki's order to avoid trouble. You can leave. Seeing that Lai Shan was driving him away, Gu Yu couldn't help but sigh. He felt that he was too poor and couldn't offer anything that could satisfy him. Just when Gu Yu was about to leave with the dog, chat boxes popped up on the right side. Wu Gui, brother, bring people to the Liuli coast. The Sea King is here. Hurry. Chen Ziyu, the Sea King has invaded. Where are you? Lu Chai, the Sea King has brought the entire Sea King Navy. We can't hold them off, brother. The series of messages made Gu Yu realize that the situation was not good. He didn't expect the Sea King to start a war with them. This was definitely not good news for the players. Gu Yu immediately ran toward the mansion of the dead with the dog in his arms. Since there was no teleportation circle in the barren grassland, he had to speed up. While running, Gu Yu started shouting in the guild live chat channel, asking the members to gather at the Liuli coast. After giving the order, Gu Yu opened the game's official forum. After a quick glance, he clicked on a thread about a player's live stream at the beach. After seeing the one-sided battle, Gu Yu's expression changed. He had already realized that the situation was irreversible. The army of players had been completely defeated. At this moment, Gu Yu turned his head to look at the earth-breaking clans tribe behind them. Dog, go to the cliffs of desperation. Quick! At this moment, huge waves were surging in the Liuli Sea. The densely packed giant beasts and the soldiers of the Sea King Navy formed a torrent of steel, charging forward in a threatening manner. This time, the Sea King Navy's battle formation was much stronger than the previous 2 times. The entire coastline was filled with the Sea King Navy's troop. The Sea King's invasion filled the players with a sense of urgency. They immediately began to assemble and fight to the death. However, the Sea King did not waste his breath this time and started the battle immediately. The waves crashed onto the shore, and a large number of the Sea King's Navy warriors took advantage of the situation and charged into the midst of the players. After knowing that Tong Gua was just a paper tiger, the Sea King was fearless. Moreover, Mu Zhiguang had promised him that if Tong Gua attacked with the strength of a ghost emperor, he would definitely stop him. Without any worries, the Sea King swore to capture the Liuli Sea. Although there were tens of millions of players at this stage, there were only about 6 million people online at this time. The advantage in numbers was not big, but the gap in individual strength was especially huge. Even if the Sea King was excluded, the commanders of the 3 major legions all had the strength of a ghost general. The first wave of collision had completely suppressed the players' army, and the front line was constantly pushed back. It was not that the players did not think of using the same method of building buildings to resist the Sea King Navy's invasion. However, the door gods were still extremely vulnerable in front of the Sea King Navy's army. After all, the door gods were mainly used to suppress evil, and they did not have any attribute suppression against the power of the sea. A large number of mahogany huts were destroyed. At this moment, the Sea King displayed his strength as the overlord of the void ocean. In front of him, the players who had developed for 4 months were completely vulnerable. Although the Sea King was surprised by the players' fighting spirit, in his opinion, no matter how crazy or stubborn they were, it was useless in the face of absolute strength. After fighting for less than an hour, the players' camp was directly forced out of the Liuli coast. However, the Sea King Navy did not stop and continued to push the players back. The Sea King's idea was very simple. He wanted to use absolute strength to deter the forces in Baki and send them a message. From now on, he, the Sea King, was stationed in Baki, and all the forces who wanted to challenge him should clearly see their own strength and consider whether to be his enemy. The appearance of the Sea King Navy had also alarmed the Rock Ghost King and the Hydra King. However, they were watching the scene silently and did not intervene. Although they belonged to Baki and should unite against the foreign enemies, they knew that even with their addition, it was still not enough in front of the Sea King Navy. Therefore, they chose to remain silent. In the North Rocks, the Rock Ghost King, who was observing the situation of the Liuli coast from afar, suddenly turned his head and looked at Du Yen, who was standing behind him. "What you said is true. Everything I said is true. I guess he is my king, but he came back with a different identity. No wonder. No wonder he died suddenly. What was he plotting?" The Rock Ghost King's face was gloomy. After raising his head to look at the Liuli coast again, the Rock Ghost King immediately said, "Du Yen, go to the Ascension Zone and tell the Hydra King what you told me just now." "Yes. I'll go now." Under the Sea King's aggressive oppression, many lifestyle players who did not like to fight were enraged. Players joined the battle one after another, but the situation did not change. A large number of players died and entered the 3-hour cooldown period. However, more players joined the battle because of this. The entire Liuli coast was filled with the corpses of the Sea King Navy's soldiers. However, these deaths were not worth mentioning to the Sea King. The army continued to advance forward. This time, his target was the Mansion of the Dead. He wanted to use the central area of Baki to declare his dominance. The commanders of countless guilds were screaming in the live chat channel. They wanted to use the strategy that the experts in the forum had researched to fight against the Sea King Navy to arrange their troop. However, in this actual battle, everything was useless in the face of the absolute strength of the Sea King Navy. The formation of the players was broken again and again. Especially the 3 commanders of the Sea King Navy who led the charge. Each of them was like a boss in the eyes of the players. When the 3 of them gathered together, their strength was like the sharpest spear, easily piercing through the defense line that the players had painstakingly formed again. The battle line advanced all the way. The Sea King Navy drove the players out of the Liuli coast with overwhelming force and began to advance toward the Mansion of the Dead. At this moment, a huge ancient tree descended from the sky and ruthlessly suppressed the Sea King's army. "King of Baki, come out!" the Rock Ghost King roared. Vines rose from the ground and began to wave wildly, sweeping away a large number of Sea King Navy soldiers. At this moment, a black figure slowly condensed in the sky. He was wearing a black robe and was shrouded in darkness. His face could not be seen at all. "I want to prove it," the Rock Ghost King said as he levitated in the air and headed toward the figure. The black figure was Lu Wu's incarnation. He waved his hand and a drop of red blood floated toward the Rock Ghost King. When the drop of blood touched the Rock Ghost King's body, it seeped into his body. "You're not the king of Baki." The Rock Ghost King glared at Lu Wu. "I will be in the future," Lu Wu said calmly. "Without the great ancestor, Anyone can bully Bakey now. If there's no new king, the Sea King Navy can suppress our army today and bully you in the future. The Rock Ghost King's face turned gloomy. Just like what Lu Wu said, he had enough of such days. The Rock Ghost King thought that the mysterious person in front of him might have the secret weapon left behind by Lu Yen. After a moment of contemplation, he gritted his teeth and said, "If we win this battle, I, the Rock Ghost King, will support you to be the king." Lu Wu nodded solemnly before his figure disappeared on the spot. At this moment, a notification rang in the minds of all the players. Frowny face game notification. The Sea King Navy has invaded the border of the Mansion of the Dead. All players will receive a double increase in their attributes. Lu Wu was not confident in this battle. Even so, he would not give up the Mansion of the Dead. The last 8 million soul coins would be used as a combat halo for the players to fight to the death. "My children, join the battle with me!" At this moment the Rock Ghost King roared. A large number of tree demons, enchanted trees, iron zombies, and other soldiers of the Rock Ghost Army emerged from the soil at the border of the Mansion of the Dead. "Demonic Snake Army, join the battle with me!" Another deafening roar came from afar. Then, a huge figure crashed down from the sky and sent a large number of soldiers of the Sea King Navy flying. From the southwest, a large number of demonic snakes swarmed over. With 2 Ghost King-level powerhouses leading the army, coupled with the double increase in the attributes of the players, the strength of the entire Bakey force was greatly increased. Chapter 200. With the addition of the Rock Ghost King and the Hydra King, this one-sided battle finally had the power to resist. The Tree Demon Army in the north and the Demon Snake Army in the southwest quickly converged with the players' camp and formed a new line of defense. Once again, they engaged in a head-on battle with the menacing Sea King Navy. Even the players did not expect that the 2 Ghost Kings, whom they had once regarded as enemies, would lend a helping hand at a time of crisis. It touched them for some reason. "Demon Capital Army, join the battle with me! Ground Wolf Army, fight with me!" At this moment, 2 more figures galloped over from afar. They were the Ghost General of the Demon Metropolis in the Cliffs of Desperation Forest and the Ghost General of the Earth Wolf, who lived underground all year round. "You're here too." The Rock Ghost King turned to look at the 2 figures in the distance. "They're already bullying us to our doorstep, why can't we come?" The Ghost King of Monster Metropolis let out a ferocious smile. Then, he let out a long howl and transformed into a purple phantom. He took the lead and collided with a Legion commander of the Sea King Navy, sending him flying with a single punch. "Bakey wants to start a war with me," the Sea King said gloomily as he looked at the forces that had suddenly joined the battle. Initially, he wanted to show off his muscles to the forces of Bakey in this battle. Little did he expect that these forces, who were originally independent, would unite. "Sea King, why weren't you as savage as you were when our king was still around? It's true that even monkeys dare to jump around when there's no tiger in the mountain." The Hydra King swallowed a soldier of the Sea King Navy in one gulp, then turned his head to look at the Sea King with a sinister smile. "You're courting death." Anger welled up in the Sea King's heart, and its body jumped up. It emitted a great wave of air as it rushed toward the 9-headed Python King. Roar! The Hydra's eyes widened and it opened its huge mouth in anger. 9 energy cannons were fired at the Sea King. The Sea King's figure did not stop in the air. He directly used his body to collide with the energy cannons. The energy cannons dissipated with a loud bang, and the Sea King's speed decreased as a result. At this moment, the Sea King was already close to the Hydra. A blue light appeared on his right arm, and he swung it toward the Hydra. At this moment, the figure of the Rock Ghost King appeared in front of the Hydra King. Countless vines contracted to form a wooden shield. Boom! Broken vines filled the sky, but the punch was still blocked. "Old buddy, it's been a long time since we fought together." The Rock Ghost King turned around and grinned hideously. "Yeah." The Hydra King nodded. Then, His body expanded once again. The muscles all over his body were firm and bulging. He slammed forward fiercely while the Rock Ghost King moved to the side decisively. Boom! The Hydra and the Sea King collided. Blue energy and black energy formed at the point of collision between the two, constantly squeezing back and forth. "You are no match for him!" The Sea King bellowed and punched with both fists, shattering the black light screen and hitting the Hydra's body, sending it flying. However, before the Sea King could stabilize himself, the Rock Ghost King beside him also launched an attack. Countless rattan whips constantly hit his body and sent him flying. Two figures crashed into the ground at the same time, creating two pits on the ground. Seeing that the Rock Ghost King and the Hydra King had joined hands, the Sea King's expression turned grave. Although he was confident that he could win, he would have to put in a lot of effort. On the main battlefield, with the addition of the two powerhouses at the peak of the Ghost General level, Demon Metropolis and Ground Wolf, they finally had the combat power to compete with the three army commanders. The pressure on the players was greatly reduced, and they began to launch a counterattack. The Fourth Disaster Army once again showed their tenacity. They crazily charged into the Sea King Navy and truly fought with their lives. What was death? In their eyes, death was just a 3-hour wait. Brothers, today's battle will be recorded in the history of war. Do you still remember the oath we made? Our glory will be recorded in the annals of history. We will march forward with history and be admired by future generations. Wu Gui's roar ignited the passion in the players' hearts. As long as they did not die, as long as their blood was not cold, they would charge forward fearlessly. The defense line formed by the players launched a desperate counterattack. Countless skills covered the sky and continuously smashed down on the Sea King Navy. The warriors were like bloodthirsty wolves, staring at the Sea King Navy warriors with hungry eyes. The last barrier of the Mansion of the Dead became especially strong. This time, the Sea King Navy could no longer easily defeat the players' army, no matter how hard they charged. Fight back, we have to fight back. F***CK the Sea King, how dare he come to the Mansion of the Dead? Chana will be his example. I'm going to hang his head on the city gate as an example. Brothers, keep it up. We have to fight to the death in this battle. As long as the Mansion of the Dead is not destroyed, death is nothing. Kill. The Mansion of the Dead and Azure Glaze will never give way. This is our home in the second world. Brothers who are unwilling to wander, unite and defend our home. With the support of various forces in Baki, the players' fighting spirit was completely ignited. They pushed forward in a frenzy and no longer put up a defensive posture. Instead, they began to attack the Sea King Navy. Every time someone in the front line fell, the players at the back would quickly fill the gap. Even the assassins and the wizards at the back would use their bodies to fill the gap as long as there was a gap in the front line, so that the Sea King Navy could not tear the front line apart. All the forces in Baki became more united at this moment. The Tree Demon Army, the Demon Snake Army, the Ground Wolf Army, and the Demon Capital Army were constantly pressuring the Sea King Navy from both sides while the players were fighting head-on with the Sea King Navy. The players' craziness had even infected them, causing them to become crazy as well. In the land of Baki, every leader fought for their position with their strength, and their subordinates were also battle-hardened. During peaceful days, their bloodthirst was suppressed at the bottom of their hearts. However, at this moment, the smell of blood in the air ignited their desire to fight. A whoa! A wolf howled from afar. A giant blue wolf crashed into the Sea King Navy, sending a large number of Sea King Navy soldiers flying along the way. Sea King, do you still remember me? The blue flame on the wolf's body dissipated, revealing Xiao Tian's appearance. Xiao Tian. Several army commanders around him revealed a surprised look. Initially, they thought that Xiao Tian was already dead. They did not expect him to appear in Baki. Xiao Tian, you're not dead. The Sea King's pupils shrank. He was very clear about Xiao Tian's injuries. In his opinion, Xiao Tian was definitely dead, but now, he was standing right in front of him, alive and well. "I've been working for you all my life, you owe me." Xiao Tian looked up at the Sea King and howled. "Soldiers of the Xiao Tian army, are you willing to continue to follow me?" The howl made the Sea King's expression change. He knew how loyal the Xiao Tian army was. When he was about to kill Xiao Tian, it was his guards who resisted with their lives, allowing him to escape with serious injuries. Hence, his heart skipped a beat. "Boss, I'll follow you." An orc raised the battle axe in his hand and roared. "Boss, I pledge my loyalty to you. I'm the commander of the Xiao Tian army. I'm willing to continue to follow you." Countless orcs raised their hands. The scene made the Sea King's heart turn cold. "Very well. Soldiers of the Xiao Tian army, turn your weapons around and avenge me. Help Baki destroy the Sea King navy." Roar! Xiao Tian's orc army obeyed the order decisively. They began to attack the other 3 major legions of the Sea King navy from the inside out. The battle that the Sea King thought was irresistible changed one after another. The new forces of Baki that were initially defenseless grew stronger with the support of other major forces, catching the Sea King off guard. Chapter 201. The Sea King knew that he had miscalculated. He did not expect the forces of Baki to join the battle. What was even more unexpected was that the commander of the Xiao Tian army, whom he thought was dead, was still alive, and had even led the Xiao Tian army to betray him. Under such circumstances, the difference in strength between the two sides was not that big. The battle lasted for the 3rd hour. The border of the Mansion of the Dead was littered with the corpses of the Sea King navy. The first batch of resurrected players began to come online one after another. The forces of Baki gradually turned from a great disadvantage to an advantage. The Sea King seemed to know that the Sea King navy would be defeated if this continued. He roared and his body was surrounded by blue energy. His body grew bigger. The players were familiar with this ability. It was the sacrificial ability that Lu Chai had learned after swallowing the Son of the Sea God body. However, Lu Chai's Sea God body was incomparable to the Sea King's in terms of size and momentum. As the Sea King waved his icy blue trident, huge waves suddenly rose at the border of the Mansion of the Dead. "Oh no, he's creating a domain!" the Rock Ghost King roared. Upon seeing this, the Hydra King immediately turned sideways and collided with the Sea King, trying to destroy his domain. The Sea King navy could not unleash its full combat power on land. However, if he was allowed to create the sea domain here, the forces of Baki would be weakened and the strength of the Sea King navy would be greatly enhanced. "Get lost!" Upon seeing the Hydra King's attack, the Sea King waved the trident in his hand. Huge waves surged in front of him and turned into a roaring water dragon that swept across and hit the Hydra King. The border of the Mansion of the Dead was flooded. As the water level rose, countless sea beasts in the Sea King navy began to roar. One by one, the sea beasts that had the ability to control water began to cast water spells. "Your Uncle Tong Gua is here." At this moment, a figure descended from the sky. His wings slapped hard on the Sea King's face, interrupting his spell casting. Tong Gua! The Sea King's pupils shrank. In the land of Baki, he was most afraid of Tong Gua. However, now that he knew that Tong Gua's ability depended entirely on fate, he was not afraid. He immediately waved his trident and 3 huge waves rose into the sky. They wrapped around Tong Gua and slapped him into the water. "Humph, a paper tiger!" The Sea King snorted coldly as he looked at Tong Gua, who had emerged from the water and was shaking his feathers. "Wang Hai, boy, you're lucky this time. I, Tong Gua, have only reached the middle stage of the Ghost King by chance. But don't get too full of yourself. Now that we're 3 against 1, it's more than enough to beat you up." Tong Gua winked at the Hydra King and the Rock Ghost King. The 2 of them understood and immediately went to Tong Gua's side, looking at the Sea King in his sea god form. "Even if the 3 of you come at me together, you won't be able to do it." The Sea King grinned hideously. The tip of the trident in his hand flashed with a blue light before he stabbed it into the sea. Suddenly, the seawater in the domain began to churn, and the turbulent waves kept crashing in all directions, greatly affecting the players and the forces of Baki on the battlefield. The soldiers of the Sea King Navy seized the opportunity to attack the players. Their attacks became extremely ferocious. Kill! The Rock Ghost King roared furiously. His body floated into the air and smashed down on the Sea King's head with an overwhelming force. Upon seeing this, the Hydra King dived into the water and began to attack the Sea King from below. On the other hand, Tongua flapped his wings and charged toward the Sea King while shouting Tongua's 18 face-slapping styles. Sea God! A blue armor condensed from the seawater and covered the surface of the Sea King's body. The flickering blue light made him look like a real god, dazzling and dazzling. The three-pronged attack hit the Sea King's body, causing cracks to appear on the Sea God's armor. Humph! I'll use your blood as a sacrifice for my dead soldiers. As the Sea King's voice fell, the trident in his hand sank into the water. The seawater quickly gathered around the trident and turned into a huge water dragon, lifting the Sea King up. Although the water dragon was condensed from seawater, its body was very sturdy. Not only did it not collapse after being hit by the Hydra King, it even stretched out its claws to hold the Hydra King down. Then, the water dragon raised its head and bit the Rock Ghost King who was falling from the sky again before throwing him into the water. On the other side of the battlefield, the players were floating on the water under the cover of the Sea God's domain. They were at a disadvantage in the battle against the Sea King Navy. All of you, summon your warships. Damn it, are they the only ones who can fight in a sea battle, and we can't? Lu Chai yelled in the live chat channel. Suddenly, warships appeared in the domain one after another. A sea battle on land is so King exciting. It's a good opportunity to test out the energy cannon that the warships have just evolved. I'll admit defeat if I don't kill at least 100 or 1,000 of them today. Lu Zhan of the Slayer Alliance stood in front of the warship's launch port, holding the handle of the energy cannon and yelling excitedly. Come out! Wandering spirit! Fight! Desperate spirit! Roar! Guardian spirit! The illusory spirits of the warships were summoned by the players. They left the warships and pounced on the roaring sea beasts from afar. After the players summoned their warships, the huge disadvantage became an even match. Ha ha ha, a secret weapon, it really is a secret weapon. Sea King, your domain doesn't seem to have any effect. The Rock Ghost King looked at the Sea King and sneered. Go to hell. The water dragon transformed from the trident pounced forward and bit the Rock Ghost King, pressing him into the water. At this moment, countless vines emerged from the water and wrapped around the water dragon, dragging it into the water. Leave it to me. You guys hold the Sea King back and don't let him join the battle. The longer we delay, the more advantageous it will be for us because these secret weapons seem to be able to be resurrected. Upon hearing that, the Hydra King looked at the players who were standing on the warships and fighting the Sea King Navy in astonishment. Then, he nodded and pounced on the Sea King again. The Sea King's strength at the peak of the Ghost King realm was undoubtedly powerful. Even if Tongua and the Hydra King, the two middle-stage Ghost Kings, joined forces to fight against him, they were still at a disadvantage. Instead, they were constantly attacked by the Sea King. However, they could no longer care about that. Since they had chosen to participate in the battle, they had put all their capital on the line. If they could not win, the entire Baki force would cease to exist and the Sea King would rule Baki completely. Roar! The Hydra King, who was riddled with wounds, roared again with a ferocious face and pounced on the Sea King without hesitation. By the 6th hour of the battle, the Sea King had realized that something was wrong. Although the number of players, who were the main force of Baki, had decreased a lot, some of them would join the battle from time to time. This gave him a bad feeling. If this force had a huge number of reinforcements, they could have joined the battle in one go. Why was there such a strange situation where they came in batches? The Sea King, who was not aware of the player's resurrection ability, was livid. However, he was pinned down by the Hydra King and Tongua at this time. He could not rush to the front of the battlefield to provide support, which made him feel very aggrieved. Brothers, let's kill. The number of the Sea King navy is decreasing. As time passed, seeing the corpses of the Sea King navy floating on the surface of the sea, the players realized that they had gained the upper hand again. They roared in excitement. Although it was a game, the players once again felt the passion and excitement in this game. It was the animal instinct that they could not get in the noisy city, which made them impulsive. Let's have a feast of roasted sea monsters tonight. Let's work harder. We, the fourth disaster, will admit defeat if we don't beat the Sea King until his intestines turn green. It's useless to say anything today. Since you're here, don't leave. As the successor of Bakey, I have to welcome you warmly. So, eat my cannon. Haha, we've gained the upper hand. Kill them, push forward. From disadvantage to advantage. With the arrival of reinforcements from the players, the advantage gradually expanded. The Spectre warship, which had spent a lot of soul coins to nurture, was now repaying the players with cannon fire and powerful warship guardian spirits. Finally seeing the dawn of victory, the players became more and more excited as they fought. On the contrary, the Sea King navy began to lose strength in the continuous battle and was gradually showing signs of exhaustion. Get lost. Seeing this, the Sea King immediately punched the Hydra King and wanted to rush to support. However, the Hydra King's eyes were firm and resolute. He pounced on him again and held him back, preventing him from going to the front of the battlefield. After punching the Hydra King again, the Sea King knew that he couldn't go on like this. He couldn't understand why the new forces of Bakey had endless reinforcements. If this went on, his Sea King navy would definitely suffer heavy losses. The consequences would be so severe that he would no longer be able to establish himself in the void ocean. After all, there were always a lot of forces watching him in the periphery of the void ocean. He couldn't afford to lose them. Retreat. The Sea King roared unwillingly. Following his words, the Sea King's domain began to fade. Motherf *Ker, do you think you can leave just like that? Stay here. You want to leave? Leave your head behind first. Motherf *Ker, you've killed me twice. You want to leave? Let me kill you once. The players roared excitedly. They didn't have the slightest thought of not pursuing a cornered enemy. There was only one word in their minds: let's do it. On the Sea King's side, after the Hydra King was punched again, the Rock Ghost King leaped out of the water and pounced on the Sea King. Switch, leave him to me. The Hydra King nodded weakly. He leaped into the water and went forward to restrain the water dragon. At this point in the battle, the Rock Ghost King could already tell that the new forces of Bakey wanted to annihilate the Sea King navy. Even when Lu Yen was around, he had never thought about this. Seeing the players gaining the upper hand and counterattacking crazily, the Rock Ghost King's blood was boiling. Annihilate the Sea King navy. This was something that he didn't even dare to think about in the past. But now, everything seemed to be developing toward the impossible. After Lu Yan's disappearance, the Sea King clearly remembered how they bullied him. At this moment, the hostility in his heart completely broke out and turned into the power of battle. He began to pester the Sea King desperately, determined not to let him leave. He displayed the crazy attitude that only the players had. With the help of the Rock Ghost King and the other Ghost Kings, the players continued to expand their advantage. The more they fought, the braver they became. The Sea King navy was scared witless. The exhaustion caused by the long battle, coupled with the psychological impact caused by the constant death of their comrades, had caused the Sea King navy to be at an irreversible disadvantage. They were in a dilemma. Just when the Sea King didn't know what to do, a black figure emerged from the east. He looked at the Sea King, then turned his head to look at the cliffs of desperation. A trace of determination flashed in his eyes as he pressed his hands down. A huge black light curtain swept forward like a shock wave, shrouding the battlefield. The next scene left everyone in the battle dumbfounded. The corpses of the Sea King Navy soldiers floating in the sea god's realm suddenly moved. They stood up again and charged toward the Baiki coalition army fearlessly. Under Mu Zhiguang's manipulation, the dead soldiers of the Sea King Navy were infected by the aura of death and turned into zombie warriors. Their appearance once again reversed the disadvantage of the Sea King Navy. This time, the players also felt that the situation was tricky. Even if these zombie warriors were killed, they would still be resurrected under this layer of black light curtain. Unless they were completely crushed, they would still attack the players even if they still had one arm. Motherf *Ker, report him for cheating, and it's AF King resurrection cheat. What the F CK is this? Cheating, Motherf Ker. Who's that up there? He's F King cheating the moment he arrived. F CKU. Come down if you have the guts, I'll beat you to death. The players looked at Mu Zhiguang, who was high up in the sky and could not help but curse. At the same time, on the left side of the battlefront, Hu He followed the strengthened zombie spirit of Cha Na and charged forward. Although Hu He was the public enemy of the whole server, he was forgiven by the players on this battlefield where everyone was united against the enemy. Seeing that he was fighting with all his might, the players around him did not attack him anymore. Instead, some of them even took a blow for him. Even when Hu He met the bounty couple that he was most afraid of during the battle, they did not try to kill him. Hu He was very touched. He felt that after this battle, his identity could finally be cleared, and he would no longer have to hide like a street rat. Hu He, your zombie spirit is very strong. Later, let it follow our team's warriors and charge forward. At this moment, a guild leader shouted at Hu He. Sure, no problem. Hu He's eyes were filled with tears of approval. Is this friendship? It's been a long time. Under such circumstances, Hu He's emotions were high and he continued to throw himself into the battle with 200% of his enthusiasm. At this moment, Mu Zhiguang's death light veil enveloped the land and the soldiers of the Sea King Navy were resurrected. While the players were cursing Mu Zhiguang, they could not help but use their analysis ability to scan him. Mu Zhiguang, Ghost Emperor Peak, Character Details. The former king of the Mu Taisi nation. The nation was destroyed in the invasion of the dead. Since then, the seed of revenge has been planted in his heart. He personally guarded the abyss under the sea and suppressed the dead clan. Later, he was awakened by the player, Hu He, from the bottom of the sea and returned to the void ocean. He is determined to help the Sea King rebuild the new Mu Taisi nation. Character status. Crippled, only missing right arm. When the players saw Mu Zhiguang's analysis menu, they were all dumbfounded. Especially the players who were fighting with Hu He in the same area. Their hearts that had forgiven Hu He instantly collapsed. On the other hand, Hu He raised his head with an awkward expression. Believe it or not, this really has nothing to do with me. I just went down for a stroll and he suddenly woke up. I think there's a bug in this analysis. Hu He looked around and explained with a serious face. You're right. You're right. Why don't you say that the analysis menu is slandering you? A cute girl at the side pointed her sword at Hu He angrily. I'll believe your mother. It's you again. We were going to win anyway, you bastard. Tumor, you're indeed a tumor. It's not easy to win against the Sea King, but you created an invincible big boss for me. I'll beat you to death. Hu He, quit your game and get lost. F CKU, celestial being. Not only here, but everywhere on the battlefield was cursing at Hu He. They were too tired to complain about this tumor. He was too good at stirring up trouble and would not stop until the player army was destroyed. Chapter 202. 3 hours ago, at the Earth-Breaking Clan's base, Hu He's gaming pod opened slowly, but he did not get up. He was still lying in the gaming pod, crying silently. Haven't you heard? Every competitor to become the king of Baiki in ancient Baiki had the strength of a ghost emperor peak. And I'm one of them. Lai Shan raised his head slowly after suffering a heavy blow and grinned at Mu Zhiguang. This was because Lai Shan's strength was actually on par with him. This was simply impossible. He was a ghost emperor. Boom. What will happen to those who offend our king? Lai Shan, who was at the front, shouted. This caused their originally high fighting spirit to vanish. Is there only darkness in my future? Lai Shan was shocked and quickly turned his head, only to see a slap coming at him again. What will happen to those who offend the land of Baiki? Boom, boom, boom. Looking at Mu Zhiguang's solemn expression, Lai Shan slowly crossed his arms above his head, putting on a defensive posture. This time, the players did not give him a chance. They immediately activated hostile mode and surrounded him. Every one of them is a ghost emperor peak? Mu Zhiguang was shocked when he heard the news. He almost thought he heard it wrong. What kind of monster is this? However, Lai Shan did not budge. He lifted his right foot and stomped on the ground. He opened his arms wide and tore the death coil apart. Ha ha ha, you really think you're somebody? How dare a tribesman from the Mu Te Si nation invade Baiki? Have you forgotten your king? Have you forgotten how he was beaten up by our king? Lai Shan looked at Mu Zhiguang mockingly. Mu Zhiguang's face darkened when he heard that. He extended his hand and grabbed downward. Countless black energy lines shot toward Lai Shan. In the outside world, brothers, now is the time to unite against a common enemy. You can't kill me. Who he shouted with a long face. One last fight. Let's fight to our heart's content. The rock ghost king roared at the sky, the vines on his body dancing wildly. Ancient earth-breaking clan. Mu Zhiguang's pupils shrank in the sky. Although they had never come into contact with the earth-breaking race before, since they had come to participate in the battle, they were allies. Naturally, they did not want to see the earth-breaking race lose. In the eyes of the earth-breaking clan, their king of Baiki had never died. This token, which seemed to have expired to Gu Yu and the others, was extremely useful to the earth-breaking clan. Just the name of the earth-splitting clan alone was enough to make many of the powerhouses present tremble in fear. The power that they displayed was even more terrifying to the Sea King. Accompanied by the angry roars of the players, whose face was filled with despair as he was slashed into a black fog and logged out of the game. Mu Zhiguang's appearance changed the tide of the battle once again. Mu Zhiguang, who was in the sky, had a serious look on his face. He gritted his teeth and turned into a black ray of light that descended from the sky. He wanted to rush towards the earth-breaking clan's army, but before he could land, he was stopped by a figure. The two figures retreated at the same time. At this moment, who was on the verge of clearing his name, was once again condemned by the masses. The enemy is right in front of us. Follow the will of our king and expel the intruders. Heavy footsteps, a drawn-out song, and the rhythmic sound of weapons hitting the surface of shields. Seeing Mu Zhiguang's attack, the Sea King laughed out loud because he knew that the outcome of this battle was already decided. The Sea King navy would definitely win. The Earth-breaking clan is best at defense. If you haven't heard of it, you can ask the elders of the Mu Te clan. Maybe they will tell you that you can't mess with me. A crisp voice was heard. Lai Shan opened his arms wide and said with a face full of enjoyment, "What a nostalgic power!" No matter how tenacious the undead army was, they would still be torn apart in the face of absolute power. A yellow army was approaching slowly from the west. It was like the backstab of justice that would appear on his back at any time, making him feel hopeless. "My king, why are you hitting me? Stop it!" Lai Shan immediately hugged his head and started rolling on the ground. Roar! The warriors of the Earth-breaking clan roared in excitement. The sky was filled with yellow sand, and stone giants appeared on the battlefield one after another. Each of them had a combat power close to that of a Ghost Supreme Commander, and a large number of clansmen already had the power of a Ghost General. Among them there were 8 Ghost Kings. Soon, the threads of death wrapped around Lai Shan and bound him to the ground. In the Sea King's memory, Mu Zhiguang once fought against the Death Clan alone. He was an army all by himself. His strength gave the Sea King unlimited confidence. Crack! After saying the last 4 words, Lai Shan stomped on the ground again. The ground shook violently and the 2 armies that were fighting on the battlefield all fell to the ground. When the smoke dissipated, everyone realized that there was a bottomless pit on the ground. Lai Shan's figure was nowhere to be seen. No one knew if he had fallen into the pit or if he had turned into ashes. The Sea King, the Rock Ghost King, and the others in the distance were also shocked. Impossible, how can you have such strength? Mu Zhiguang turned back after the fight, his eyes filled with horror. What do you mean? Aren't you the Rock Ghost King? The Hydra King looked at him in surprise. I know, he is the Rock Ghost King, he is the man known as the Rock Ghost King. The Rock Ghost King suddenly exclaimed. This was the reason why you wanted the dog to go to the cliffs of desperation. How did you do it? Mu Zhiguang asked with a cold face. If I attack, you won't have a chance. This is your last move, show me your strongest move. The dog rushed over from the cliffs of desperation and handed the expired Baiki King's order that he cheated from the white-haired old man to Guyu. The Baiki King's order was unique to only the king of Baiki. Lai Shan did not doubt him and immediately obeyed the order, mobilizing the Earth-Breaking Clan's army to join the battle. Since my king asked me to join the battle, the seal can be broken now, right? Lai Shan hammered the ground with both of his arms. The first time, there are 2 more. Show me your strongest move. With the appearance of this terrifying ancient army on the battlefield, the situation became completely one-sided. Lai Shan brushed off the dirt on his body and raised his head with a smile again. The cracks on the ground continued to spread in all directions. A large amount of khaki-colored energy crazily rushed into Lai Shan. Looking at the Baiki coalition army retreating under the fierce attack of the Sea King Navy and the zombies, the Rock Ghost King smiled sadly. Seeing this scene, Guyu laughed out loud, while the dog jumped excitedly at the side. I'll return the same words to you, you're no match for me. The corrosive energy began to invade Lai Shan. After a full minute of the deadly and destructive rays, the light wheel gradually shrank and flew back to Mu Zhiguang's forehead. Lai Shan seemed to have heard what the Rock Ghost King said. He turned his head and grinned at him. After stabilizing his body, Mu Zhiguang looked at Lai Shan coldly. Sob, he curled up his body and began to whimper. Go, my children, prove your loyalty to the king. Kill. The Earth-Breaking Clan's warriors behind him roared in unison. As soon as Lai Shan's voice fell, the Earth-Breaking Clan's warriors began to run slowly. Then, their speed became faster and faster, like a yellow sandstorm, they charged into the battlefield. Seeing this scene, the Rock Ghost King and the Hydra King's hearts skipped a beat. They thought that this battle was only a battle between them and the Sea King Navy, but this time, there was a Ghost Emperor Realm Master. Old friend, let's fight to the death. Even if we die, we must die in battle. The weak Hydra King turned his head and said to the Rock Ghost King, You still don't know what you did wrong? If I don't beat you up today, I'll change my surname to yours. The more he thought about it, the angrier the white-haired old man became. He immediately rolled up his sleeves and began to punch and kick Lai Shan on the ground. Lai Shan's provocative words completely infuriated Mu Zhiguang. A circle of death's light wheel engraved with many runes appeared on his forehead. Then, the light wheel rapidly expanded and sped toward Lai Shan, floating above his head. The ground where Lai Shan and Mu Zhiguang collided suddenly sank. The surrounding players and the Sea King Navy soldiers were all blown away by the shockwave and turned into dust in the air. That's because my territory is in the Rock Ghost King, that's why I'm called the Rock Ghost King. I've read about the origin of the North Rocks on a tablet in the depths of the North Rock. The origin of the name is related to the strongest force that once occupied the North Rocks because the strongest king of that force is known as the Invincible Rock, and that person might be him. Earth. Along with Lai Shan's roar, the ground beneath his feet began to crack. Khaki energy was continuously extracted from the ground. Indeed, history is the best proof. No one can always rise to power. One day, it will be the end of me, the Rock Ghost King. I just didn't expect this day to come so soon. Not only was Mu Zhiguang dumbfounded, but the Sea King, the Rock Ghost King, and the others were also shocked. Go to hell, Cancer. From today onwards, we will be mortal enemies. I won't be able to rest easy if I don't kill you. Die. Under the impact of such energy, the players revealed worried expressions. He was in despair. He wanted to explain, but he didn't know what to say. He could only look around with pitiful eyes. Not bad this time, but it's still not enough to hurt me. Boom! The black energy pillar surrounded by black lightning struck Lai Shan from top to bottom. Kill. Beiki, the border of the mansion of the dead. After seeing the huge disadvantage of the players in the live streaming channel, Gu Yu knew that he couldn't turn the situation around no matter whether he went or not. Therefore, he thought of using the power of the Earth-breaking clan. I'm afraid that there will be more variables if you're here. You're the biggest villain. Get lost, you're no match for me. The existence of the undead army offset the advantage of the players' resurrection. At this stage, the players' camp didn't have the strength to completely crush the Sea King Navy. Therefore, after the appearance of the undead army, the battle became extremely difficult. When Gu Yu took out his token, even a Ghost Emperor Realm powerhouse like Lai Shan knelt down to worship him. All of these threads were imbued with strong death energy. Even the ground was corroded into black pits when it came into contact with these energy threads. Junior, you're right. The North Rocks was named after me. The death energy that poured out from the black light wheel was terrifying. The players and other creatures standing around it quickly dissipated and turned into ashes the moment they came into contact with the aftershock. This powerful clan that had never been born and had always lived in history had actually appeared at this moment. Just as everyone was holding their breath, waiting to see if Mu Zhiguang's last move would be able to hurt Lai Shan, a figure suddenly appeared behind Lai Shan and slapped him to the ground. This was because they knew that a Ghost Emperor Realm powerhouse was far from what they could handle. In fact, they had already lost the battle the moment Mu Zhiguang appeared. Seeing everyone's shocked gaze, Lai Shan looked at Mu Zhiguang again. While everyone was still speculating, a figure emerged from the pit and landed beside him. Smack! 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 Everyone was dumbfounded by the scene. Both armies even forgot to fight as they stared at Lai Shan, who was arrogant just a moment ago. Now, he was curling up like a child who was being beaten. Fate seemed to be playing a joke on him. The moment he wanted to prove his innocence, it stabbed him in the back and twisted him a few times. Soldiers, kill! Conquer Beiki with me today. The Sea King, who was initially shouting for retreat, called for his soldiers to attack again. The strongest! The strongest! I'll beat you to death, the strongest! Hearing this, Mu Zhiguang's expression turned colder. His body turned into a black light again and swept toward Lai Shan. After glancing at Mu Zhiguang, Lai Shan lifted his foot and stomped on the ground again. The ground shook and trembled. Just when the two Ghost Kings thought that the battle was irreversible, an ancient battle song was heard from afar. Boom! Even the Sea King and the others felt that they would not be able to withstand the death ray for long. However, the leader of the ancient Earth-breaking clan had not only withstood all the damage, but he was also unscathed. This truly shocked them. Gu Yu used the power of the King of Beiki's order to express that he was obeying the King's order to mobilize the Earth-breaking clan to fight and defend Beiki. Chapter 203. At this moment, the white-haired old man's figure was blurry, but Lu Wu, who was behind the scenes, could clearly see his appearance through the artifact. He was the white-haired old man who lived in seclusion on the mountainside of the Cliffs of Desperation. Lu Wu suddenly realized that his previous guess was right. This person was the first king of Baiki, North Sea. Looking at the white-haired old man's silhouette, Lu Wu felt a sense of familiarity, as if he had met this person before. Ever since Lu Wu started cultivating, his soul had become stronger. Hence, this feeling was very mysterious, as if there was some kind of connection at the soul level. This made Lu Wu very confused. Logically speaking, his ancestor should be Lu Yen, and there were traces of this person's existence in the land of Baiki, so it was not fabricated. But why did he have a feeling for this North Sea that had nothing to do with him? Little Li, do I know him? Lu Wu turned around and looked at Bailey. Bailey immediately put on an adorable expression and began to play dumb. She acted like she was wondering who she was, where she was, and why she was here. Little Li. Lu Wu leaped into Bailey's arms and raised his paw. Can I say that I don't know? Bailey asked softly. No. Lu Wu rolled his eyes at her. Sage, in any case, he is not your enemy. Although he has a close relationship with you, it is not a blood relationship. What do you mean? Could he be my lover from my past life? Lu Wu's eyes were filled with terror. Bailey was embarrassed. She couldn't help but slap Lu Wu's head. It's not what you think. What are you thinking? You're the one who trained him personally. Bailey's voice became softer and softer as she spoke. Lu Wu placed his ear right in front of Bailey's mouth as his curiosity began to overflow. Tell me, what do you mean by nurturing? Tell me clearly. Lu Wu was anxious. I won't say it. If you do this again, I'm going to use force. Lu Wu flashed his claws. I would rather die than submit. Have the price of snacks. I'll talk. Bailey lowered her head dejectedly. Tell me, what's the relationship between me and this old man? Lu Wushan asked. He's the successor that you've groomed personally. Bailey pouted after she finished speaking, looking very angry. Successor? Wasn't he the first king of Baiki? Take over my position as the king of Baiki? Lu Wu was completely confused. Bailey raised her head and looked at Lu Wu solemnly before she said, Wu, do you remember the woman who called herself Li? I remember. She's very strong. She sealed the demonic god. Lu Wu nodded. His real name is Bailey. He was the strongest person in the Baiki divine clan and also the founder of the land of Baiki. Lu Wu was shocked by Bailey's words. Then, an expression appeared on his face as if he had expected it. That woman in white is indeed you. I told you, she's not me, but you have to be mentally prepared when I say it. Lu Wu nodded, but he was a little nervous. He had a feeling that it was not good news. The strongest person in the Baiki divine clan, Bailey, is you. And now, you are her incarnation after countless reincarnations. Lu Wu's cat eyes widened as he leaned back in shock. Yes, you heard me right. You used to be Bailey, the strongest person in the Baiki divine clan. Bailey said with certainty. Bam! Lu Wu fell to the ground. What about Lu Yen? Who is he? Is he my reincarnation too? Also, why did I reincarnate when I was so strong? Also, if I'm Bailey, who are you? Bailey picked Lu Wu up and placed him in her arms. Lu Yen is your ancestor in your reincarnation. As I said before, you and I have a deep bond. After you left, I changed my name to Bailey. As for my identity, Bailey squinted her eyes as she spoke. You don't want to experience the pain from back then, do you? Lu Wu shook his head decisively. After experiencing it once, he did not want to experience it again. The pain from his soul was more painful than killing him. Yes, so you should improve your strength as soon as possible. Follow your previous idea and take it step by step. Now that your soul strength has reached the middle stage of the Ghost Commander, just wait a little longer. Everything will be revealed in the future. Alright then. At this moment, Lu Wu was still in shock and had yet to recover. He did not expect that the person who suppressed the demonic god back then was him, and that the white-haired old man was the successor that he had trained. At this moment, his mind started to run wild and many thoughts became clearer. If the white-haired goddess was really him, then it was obviously his order for the white-haired old man to suppress the demonic god. But what was he plotting? Could it be that the white-haired old man's seclusion was also his order? The more Lu Wu thought about it, the more confused he became. But I was so awesome back then. That's why I'm a woman. Lu Wu slammed the floor in frustration. After being beaten up by the white-haired old man, Lai Shan wanted to cry but had no tears. He had obediently followed the order, and came from the barren grassland. What did he do wrong? Could it be that he was too pretentious when he gave the king 3 moves before the fight? The more he thought about it, the more he felt that this was the reason. He raised his head and said, "My king, I was wrong. I shouldn't have pretentious, I shouldn't have given the 3 moves." The white-haired old man glared at him. "You still don't know what you did wrong." Looking at the white-haired old man who was about to hit him, Lai Shan habitually shrunk his body and lay down. However, this time, the white-haired old man did not attack him. Instead, he said, "Since you're here, you should settle the matter here first. Then, come to the cliffs of desperation and look for me. I'll be waiting for you." After that, the white-haired old man glanced at Mu Zhiguang and disappeared on the spot. Seeing the white-haired old man leave, Lai Shan was in despair. He knew that nothing good would come out of looking for him. Even at this moment, Lai Shan still did not know what he had done wrong. Then, he slowly stood up and looked at Mu Zhiguang who was stunned in the sky. "TSK. It's all your fault. Have a taste of the beating I got just now." This time, Lai Shan did not mention the last move. Instead, he punched the ground with both fists. Khaki energy surged into his body, and the surface of his body started to shine with a golden light. Realizing that Lai Shan was about to attack, Mu Zhiguang's face turned serious. Another death rune light wheel appeared on his forehead. The light wheel quickly floated in the air and expanded. It shone with the black light screen that enveloped the area. A giant black arm covered in scales slowly emerged from the light wheel and pressed towards Lai Shan. "Have you mastered the law of death? Not bad." Lai Shan smiled ferociously and suddenly disappeared on the spot. Then, a giant golden hammer was condensed in his hand, and he swung it at the giant hand. Boom! The collision tore a crack in the space. A violent airflow swept through the area and the huge shockwave sent the gravel on the ground flying like bullet. A large number of innocent creatures were hit. Resisting the suppression of the giant black hand, the golden hammer in Lai Shan's hand glowed brighter and brighter. "Open!" Following Lai Shan's roar, the giant hammer was swung upwards. Under the tremendous force, the giant black hand retreated little by little and was pushed back into the light wheel. Then, Lai Shan swung the golden hammer and smashed it on the black light screen. Gotcha! The death field that enveloped the area was broken and the zombie warriors of the Sea King Navy collapsed. "Today, those who dare to offend Beiki shall not leave. Kill them all." Following Lai Shan's words, the warriors of the Earth-Breaking Clan launched another attack on the Sea King Navy. The players who reacted quickly gathered and followed the army of the Earth-Breaking Clan to attack the Sea King Navy. The battle was changing rapidly. After a few ups and downs, even the battle-hardened Rock Ghost King and the Hydra King were stunned. They were not even sure if they would win. After all, what if there was a stronger opponent hiding behind the scenes? However, the Sea King knew that his biggest trump card was Mu Zhiguang. However, from the battle between the two of them, he could tell that Mu Zhiguang was no match for the leader of the Earth-Breaking Clan. Hence, he knew that he had lost. Looking at the corpses of the Sea King Navy's soldiers all over the ground, the Sea King knew that his position as the overlord of the Void Ocean was at stake. "I can't accept this." The Sea King looked ferocious and pounced on the Rock Ghost King and the Hydra King. The despair in his heart turned into a hysterical vent. Chapter 204. Lai Shan was shocked and wanted to stop him, but it was too late. A fight between immortals, we can't afford to mess with them. Run. Boom. 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 At this moment, Lu Wu was lying in Bei Li's arms, watching the battle between the Ghost Emperor peak powerhouses attentively. Facing such a powerful Lai Shan, Mu Zhiguang did not dare to be careless. He began to activate the black halo, and a huge ferocious beast slowly emerged from it. In front of it, there was an artifact statistics panel. However, this was not the scariest part. After the collision between the two was digitized by the artifact, health bars appeared on their bodies. Roar. Mu Zhiguang began to roar in pain. Then, he opened his mouth and inhaled at the dark beast. The dark beast also began to roar in pain, and its body disintegrated, turning into clouds of black mist that flowed into Mu Zhiguang's mouth. The Sea King, the Rock Ghost King, and the Hydra King fought fiercely. In the sky, the battle between Lai Shan and Mu Zhiguang continued. With the appearance of a golden light, everything was torn apart by the golden light. Open! Hey, it looks pretty scary. Come on. Lai Shan carried his war hammer on his shoulder and said with a smile. The collision of pure physical bodies caused the earth to be unable to bear the heavy burden, causing it to continuously crack. Meanwhile, the close-range combat techniques used in the battle caused the spectating forces to suffer unspeakably. Even a Ghost King like the Rock Ghost King found the energy shockwaves to be somewhat unbearable. However, the Clan King gave them a piece of advice before he died. Mu Zhiguang murmured softly. The death halo began to tremble, and a faint black light emerged from it, as if it was responding to Mu Zhiguang. Mu Zhiguang did not answer. He raised his hand and pointed at the halo. Suddenly, a black light emerged from it and quickly entered his body. Self-sacrifice. Are you going to fight with your life? Lai Shan did not attack, but asked with anticipation. The constantly torn space cracks caused the world to change. Sometimes it was bright and sometimes it was dark. Sometimes it was stormy and sometimes it was sunny. A mushroom cloud rose at the border of the mansion of the dead. They collided more than 10,000 times per second, and performed close combat techniques more than 300 times per minute. You dare to invade Beiki with such strength? You should know that Frozen Brat and Big Fire Fool haven't arrived yet. You can't even defeat me. You must be joking, right? Lai Shan couldn't help but mock. After smashing away the Black Sky's beast's claw, Lai Shan instantly closed in. His left hand grabbed onto one of the Black Sky's beast's fingers. The muscles on his body bulged and green veins popped out. Then, he suddenly threw the hammer backwards. His body twisted and he used the force to throw the Black Sky's beast towards the ground. Every time they clashed, their HP would drop. Awesome! Lai Shan laughed heartily as he raised his war hammer and charged downwards. Huge yellow streams of air dispersed from the surface of his body. When the hammer smashed onto the Black Sky's giant beast's body, it was like a magnitude 12 earthquake. The ground shook and was split into many pieces. Roar! Mu Zhiguang, who was unscathed, turned into a stream of light and charged towards Lai Shan. Get down! With a deafening roar, a gigantic golden warhammer that was 100 meters long suddenly appeared. It then smashed down violently on Mu Zhiguang's body. Smoke and dust billowed and the ground cracked, forming a huge crater. Lai Shan felt the Black Sky's beast under his feet begin to struggle. He lowered his body and suppressed it again. Then, he looked up at Mu Zhiguang with a hint of anticipation in his eyes. The death light wheel in the sky suddenly slid down and enveloped the Sea King, who was still in shock. Then, it quickly slid towards the void ocean. The sharp claw and the warhammer collided. A crack in the space was formed and expanded rapidly. All the creatures that came into contact with the crack were torn apart by the distorted space, leaving nothing behind. Apart from the Earth-breaking clan, who was protected by the Earth Giant's body, and a few Beiki forces who dug into the ground, the players and the Sea King Navy were instantly defeated. Both forces were wiped out at the same time. The strength that Mu Zhiguang displayed this time shocked Lai Shan. However, it also made him excited. He raised his war hammer again and smashed it directly at Mu Zhiguang's head. At this moment, Mu Zhiguang turned his head and looked at the Sea King with a trace of kinship in his eyes. At the moment before his death, Mu Zhiguang had a slight realization. Mu Zhiguang opened his weak eyes and looked at Lai Shan with an expression full of unwillingness. He was the strongest genius in the history of the Mu Te clan. The hammer landed squarely on Mu Zhiguang's head and sent him flying. When Mu Zhiguang stood up again, a rapidly fading hammer print appeared on his head. A deep hammer print also appeared on the back of the dark sky beast. The dark sky beast! A trace of excitement flashed in Lai Shan's eyes as he looked at the giant beast. He was too tired in his life. He had given up everything for the sake of his clan. It was time for him to rest. Accompanied by his angry roar, the war hammer suddenly smashed down. The Sea King, who was in the light wheel, clenched his teeth as he listened to the last words that Mu Zhiguang left for him. The world is huge. There are indeed many geniuses who are stronger than me. I'm scared out of my wits. The battle between the demonic god and Hidorigami was already scary enough. This battle is even more awesome. Even though I'm watching the battle from afar, my HP is still dropping like crazy. No, I have to run further away. What the F***CK? I'm satisfied that I've played this account for my entire life. Little Hai, you'll be the only one left in the Mu Te clan in the future. Don't fight for anything anymore. Live well and promise me. The two silhouettes sped up in the battle until they broke through the sound barrier. The outside world could only hear the delayed sonic boom from all directions. It was impossible to tell where the two were at the moment. Mu Zhiguang slowly closed his eyes. Just as the giant hammer was about to hit him, he suddenly opened his eyes and grabbed at the Sea King. Eat my hammer! Seeing the approaching dark sky nether beast, Lai Shan raised his war hammer and faced it head-on. A drop of cold sweat dripped from Lu Wu's forehead as he witnessed the scene. The surrounding tree demons, aardwolves, magical snakes, and other monsters began to dig into the ground to hide. Boom! Crack! Looking at the extremely arrogant Lai Shan, a memory surfaced in Mu Zhiguang's mind. After a while, everything returned to silence. Hey, good timing! From Lai Shan's point of view, even if there were a lot of new people in Beiki, the old forces had not changed. Hence, he felt that Mu Zhiguang was overestimating himself. Lai Shan stepped on the back of the dark sky beast and raised his head to look at the ashen-faced Mu Zhiguang. Even if the Mu Te clan wanted to expand their territory in the future, the land of Beiki should never be invaded. It was a forbidden land, a land where countless powerhouses competed and killed each other. A forbidden land, a land of killing? So what? I, Mu Zhiguang, have always been going against the world. I am the light of the Mu Te clan. I will protect the glory of my clan. Have they ascended to heaven? Why has the world turned white? This was too terrifying. If these two were to come to the real world, they would be walking nuclear weapons. It's over. You are a powerhouse, but since you are an invader, you have to die. Lai Shan raised his war hammer again. Lu Wu was stunned by the data. When the storm dissipated, Lu Wu found Mu Zhiguang lying on the ground, barely breathing. His cursed body was full of cracks. After swallowing the dark sky beast, Mu Zhiguang's body began to swell and distort. Black scales grew on the surface of his body, and sharp black claws grew on his hands. In the blink of an eye, he had turned into a ferocious-looking monster that was more than 10 meters tall. After the white-haired old man disappeared, the war broke out again. F***CKU, can't you show some sympathy for us players? You've gone too far. However, one thing had never changed. I won't. Mu Zhiguang replied coldly. His pupils instantly turned black, his black robe fluttered even though there was no wind, and his body was burning with black flames. Don't disappoint me. However, Mu Zhiguang, who was under the curse of death, was like a cheat. No matter how much he lost, he would instantly recover to full. He was once called the scum of the Mu Te clan because he had mastered the power of death. Roar! Mu Zhiguang's figure suddenly disappeared in the air. When he reappeared, he was already in front of Lai Shan, his sharp giant claws slamming down. However, now that he thought about what Lai Shan said, every competitor to become the king of Baiki in ancient Baiki was a powerhouse at the peak of the Ghost Emperor realm. Mu Zhiguang finally understood why the old king would give such advice to his clansmen before he died. Ah, I'm blind. Is this the Super Science Vitality Bomb? The two figures collided again. The battle was getting more and more intense. All the forces stopped fighting and began to take refuge. Mu Zhiguang had almost forgotten this memory. This big brother had once given up his freedom for his clansmen, and this time, he gave up his life for him. This filled the Sea King's heart with hatred and guilt. After years of silence, Lai Shan felt his blood boiling when he encountered such a strong opponent. He shouted excitedly and the giant hammer collided with the dark sky beast's giant claws again. However, before Mu Zhiguang could recover to full, Lai Shan smashed his hammer again. With each collision, lightning flashed and thunder roared in the sky. The space was twisted by a strong force, cracks appeared from time to time, but they were quickly repaired. At the moment of death, there was only relief in Mu Zhiguang's eyes. In the eyes of the outside world, the two figures were too fast. They had completely turned into black and yellow lights, colliding crazily. The roaring shockwave swept across again. Under this heavy blow, Mu Zhiguang's HP dropped by more than half on the interface. Boom! The dazzling white light turned the sky and the earth into day. Fortunately, the battle was at the border. If it was at the mansion of the dead, it would be over. Lu Wu was relieved. O Lord of Death, I, Mu Zhiguang, sacrifice my dead body in exchange for the supreme power of the law of death. Following that, a huge shockwave swept out in all directions at a speed of 3,500 kilometers per hour at nearly 3 times the speed of sound. Everything exposed to the outside world was sliced up by the small pebbles that were swept up in the air. Countless players were not spared and were killed in the barrage of pebbles. At that time, many clansmen stayed by the side of the dying clan king, assuring him that the glory of the Mu Te clan would continue. The battle went on for half an hour. Not only did it not stop, Lu Wu realized that the attributes of both of them were still increasing. The attack threw the players into chaos and they quickly retreated to the distance. The same was true for Lai Shan. Every time he was injured, a ball of pure earth power would gush out from the ground and heal his injuries completely. However, he was once known as the light of hope of the Mu Te clan because he had mastered the power of death. A black thread fell from the black light wheel in the sky and connected with Mu Zhiguang. Meanwhile, Lai Shan continued to summon the power of earth to strengthen his body, keeping his body in peak condition. At this level, the battle had affected part of the operation of heaven and earth. Big brother, I, Mu Hai, swear that I will take revenge. May your soul rest in peace. The Sea King's eyes were filled with hatred as he looked in the direction of Baiki. Lines of death curse appeared on the surface of Mu Zhiguang's body, shining with a dark luster. Looking at the death light wheel disappearing at the end of the horizon, Lai Shan was furious. He felt that he had not fulfilled the king of Baiki's order to kill all the invaders. Chapter 205. On the north side of the void ocean, a black wheel of light sped over from afar. Then, it suddenly shot into the water and dove downward. The Sea King had lost everything during the invasion of Baiki. He knew that he could no longer turn the situation around with his own strength. Such a deep hatred had driven the Sea King mad. Hence, he had a crazy idea. It was the only way for him to rise again. The Death's light wheel shuttled under the water. 5,000 meters. 10,000 meters. 20,000 meters. Soon, a huge statue appeared in his line of sight. Seeing the Death's light wheel approaching, the huge statue turned around slowly and looked at the Sea King. Roar! The undercurrent was surging. The huge arm suddenly grabbed the Sea King. Guardian, I am Mu Hai from the Mu Te clan. The Sea King immediately condensed his thoughts into a telepathic thought and transmitted it into the body of the spirit of Mu Te. This time, the huge statue did not attack. It lowered its arms slowly and allowed the Sea King to approach. After getting close to the spirit of Mu Te, the Sea King left the light wheel. He drew a line on his arm, and a few drops of blue blood fell on the surface of the spirit of Mu Te's body and quickly seeped into it. After a while, the voice of the spirit of Mu Te appeared in the Sea King's mind. Member of the Mu Te royal family, what brings you here? I want to release the Death Clan. I want them to ravage the void ocean. No, sealing this place is the order of our king, Mu Zhiguang. I reject your request. The voice of the spirit of Mu Te reverberated in the Sea King's mind. Mu Zhiguang is dead. The only way for me to take revenge is to release the Death Clan. Now, I am the only one left in the Mu Te clan. I am your king now. The Sea King roared hysterically. I don't believe it. The spirit of Mu Te seemed to be shocked and his body trembled. The Sea King's face darkened. He immediately transmitted the last words that Mu Zhiguang left for him to the spirit of Mu Te. After a moment of silence, the spirit of Mu Te spoke again. He hopes that you will not take revenge and preserve the last bloodline of the Mu Te clan. I'd rather die than live alone. I've made up my mind, the Sea King said with determination. The last king of Mu Te, I will obey your orders. This time, the spirit of the Mu Te Sea didn't say anything else. It was created by the Mu Te tribe, so it had to follow the orders of the king of the Mu Te tribe. Now that the Sea King was the only one left of the Mu Te tribe, it believed that the Sea King was the last king of the Mu Te tribe. The giant statue's right foot slowly lifted up, revealing a six-pointed star array beneath it. Countless ghostly wails could be heard coming from within. The tentacles seeped into the seal and began to twist and grow. Do you need me to break the seal? King Mu Te. Wait, the Sea King said as he dashed toward the seal. Suddenly, numerous black tentacles entangled the Sea King in a frenzy. Boom! The Mu Te guardian spirit's feet shook, and all the illusory tentacles were torn apart by an invisible force. When the Sea King's feet came into contact with the seal, countless voices rang in his mind. Strange laughter, hoarse roars, and sorrowful cries. Mu Zhiguang, dead, dead. Mu Zhiguang is dead, humph. The Sea King snorted coldly and drove all the voices out of his mind. He then lowered his body and looked at the hexagram seal. Do you want to come out? Master of Death. As soon as the Sea King's voice fell, the tentacles that were still spreading out disappeared. A skeleton face slowly formed at the seal. Mu Zhiguang. Die. I'm not Mu Zhiguang. I'm just asking if you want to come out. If you don't want to come out, I think Mu Zhiguang will keep you here forever. Of course, the Sea King would not tell the Sea King that Mu Zhiguang was already dead. Otherwise, he was afraid that the Death Clan in the Abyss of Death would go on a rampage and attack the seal. Without Mu Zhiguang, the spirit of Mu Te alone could not stop the Death Clan from breaking the seal. The Sea King knew this very well. Who are you? Can you let us out? The voice under the seal kept changing from crying, to angry, to wailing. I can let you out, but what can you give me in return? I can give you death. I can grant you death. I can let you embrace the darkness. A sharp laughter came from below, causing the Sea King to turn pale. Looks like you never want to come out. The Sea King snorted. What do you want? You seem to desire the power of death. I can feel it. That's right, give me the power of death and let me lead your army of death. I will lead them to slaughter and devour all life. That's a good offer. I like it. But do you really dare? As soon as the Master of Death finished speaking, an elixir surrounded by the aura of death slowly emerged from the seal. Do you dare? You might really die after eating it. The Sea King looked at the elixir and reached out to take it. Suddenly, The aura of death began to surround his hand and his arm instantly turned black. The power of death continuously seeped into his body, destroying his bodily functions. If you can give me the power I want, I will let you out. The Sea King swallowed the elixir resolutely as he spoke. The aura of death instantly spread all over the Sea King's body. His eyes gradually turned as black as Muzhiguang's. Waves of black air flowed in and out of his body, and the Sea King began to scream in pain. Ha ha! Embrace death. Enjoy the last moment of your life. Looking at the Sea King, who was howling in pain, the voice below laughed hysterically. After this battle, the players once again felt the insignificance of their own forces. In the face of such destructive power, no matter how many of them they had and how they could resurrect, they were still no match for it. However, this battle also brought great rewards to the players. The large number of dead soldiers of the Sea King Navy brought them innumerable experience points and soul coins. After the battle, the players even spent a large number of soul coins to improve their strength, change their equipment, and repair their warship. The overall strength of the players in the original server had once again increased by a large margin. Among them, the one who benefited the most was Lu Wu. The number of soul coins he had directly exceeded 50 million, which made him grin from ear to ear. Even the sense of crisis from the hidden forces of Beiki that had been weighing on his heart had faded away. After knowing that the white-haired old man used to be his subordinate, he had no more worries. Now, the only thing that made him feel very uncomfortable, to the point that he would slap the floor whenever he thought about it, was the melodramatic fact that he used to be a girl. After this battle, Lu Wu also spent some soul coins to use the Yin energy to repair the border area of the Mansion of the Dead. After all, this was the only way for the players to reach the Liuli coast. Now that it was destroyed by the battle between Lai Shan and Muzhiguang, it was possible that the players would fall into a bottomless pit while walking. Lu Wu did not feel bad about this sum of money. He decisively waved his hand and spent it. At the same time, there was one more important thing for Lu Wu to do. When he was almost done with the trivial matters, he condensed his incarnation in the Mansion of the Dead and walked toward Tong Gua's forging room. At this moment, in Tong Gua's forging room, Tong Gua, Xiao Tian, the sapling version of the Rock Ghost King, and the little snake version of the Hydra King stared at each other without saying a word. Tong Gua, I didn't expect you to become so weak, the Rock Ghost King said as the atmosphere became a little awkward. No wonder your form looks so familiar. Tong Gua did not answer directly. Instead, he looked at the Rock Ghost King and fell into deep thought. Ahem. The Rock Ghost King could not help but cough awkwardly. After all, when he first snuck into the Mansion of the Dead, he thought that Tong Gua was still the terrifying Ghost King peak powerhouse, which was why such an embarrassing thing happened. By the way, Tong Gua, since we already have the idea of surrendering to him, why doesn't he come out to meet us? The Hydra King asked curiously. Don't worry, he's always like this. Who knows, he might come out at any time. Anyway, just wait, but you must be mentally prepared. Surrendering to him is not as simple as it sounds. Tong Gua could not help but remind them. Do we have to swear allegiance to him with our souls? We did it when our king was still around. Since it's an allegiance, it's normal to do it to prevent betrayal, the Rock Ghost King frowned. Then you're too naive. Once you board this pirate ship made of vibranium, the door will be welded shut. You won't be able to leave even if you die, Xiao Tian said faintly. Although Xiao Tian did not know what vibranium was when he said this, he knew that it was very powerful according to the players. The Rock Ghost King and the Hydra King were dumbfounded when they heard this. At this moment, a figure appeared in the house. The pitch-black figure was covered by a dense fog, making it impossible to see the person's face clearly. Rock Ghost King, Hydra King, I'm here. Seeing the person, the Rock Ghost King and the Hydra King were shocked. After thinking for a while, they faced Lu Wu and bowed. Greetings, King of Beiki. To be honest, your allegiance to me has caused me to lose a lot of resources. But this is good, I can use this opportunity to expand my territory. As he spoke, Lu Wu moved his mind and a paragraph of words of allegiance to the artifact entered the minds of the Rock Ghost King and the Hydra King. Read it, we'll be a family after that. Lu Wu said with a smile. My king, why does this soul allegiance oath feel different from the original version? The Rock Ghost King and the Hydra King raised their heads in confusion. Don't ask so much, just read it. What are you afraid of? Can't you see that I've already read it? Tong Gua instigated them from the side, but he was secretly happy. After all, it was great to have two more people suffer with him. After looking at each other, the two of them finally began to read the words in their mind. At this moment, the artifact also sensed their souls. After they finished reading the soul allegiance oath, it sucked them into the space. Bailey, who had been waiting in the artifact for a long time, wore a mask and a white coat, and began a new round of brainwashing. After about an hour, the Rock Ghost King and the Hydra King were sent out of the space with dull faces. What is this? Could this be the secret weapon that Lu Yen made back then? The Rock Ghost King and the Hydra King were horrified after they recovered from the shock. Especially when they saw the mysterious Bailey, who had been following the former king of Baiki closely in the artifact space. It was even more unbelievable. The information is already in your minds, Lu Wu spoke again. Upon hearing this, the Rock Ghost King and the Hydra King immediately sank their telepathy into their mind. Information about the divine artifact and the players popped up one after another, shocking the experienced and knowledgeable players. What do you think? Didn't I tell you? You can't get off the pirate ship made of vibranium. Now you can't even die even if you want to. Xiao Tian chuckled. My king, I want to know what you're planning, the Rock Ghost King asked with a serious expression. To forge an army that can fight against any force, including the world of immortals. Lu Wu's calm words frightened the Rock Ghost King and the Hydra King. After all, he knew how terrifying the strength of the world of immortals was. Don't be afraid. With the artifact, I have the ability. After the two understood some of the functions of the artifact, they began to recognize the absurdity in their hearts. Now I finally understand why these secret weapons, players keep harassing my North Rocks. This is how they develop and become stronger. The Hydra King also nodded his head. Plundering and becoming stronger? After the artifact digitized, their potential is limitless. This is indeed the best way to develop. My king, I know how to make medicine. Do I need to provide it to the players and develop it into their life profession? Just as Xiao Tian said, since they had already boarded the ship, the Rock Ghost King was ready to follow. Hence, he took the initiative to propose the idea of helping the players develop. Rock Ghost King, you and the Hydra King go back first and continue to be your Ghost Kings. At this stage, the strength of the players still needs to be developed. I'm preparing a new chapter of advancement, so you can continue to be your Ghost Kings. As for the harassment of the players, you can turn a blind eye to it. When the time is right, I'll tell the players about your participation. Upon hearing this, the Rock Ghost King and the Hydra King looked bitter. They thought that they could finally relax after boarding the ship, but they didn't expect to have to help the players become stronger. Yes. In the end, the two bowed and agreed. Seeing that the two had agreed, Lu Wu nodded his head in satisfaction. When the time is right, bring your trusted subordinates here. I'll digitize them. As for the unimportant subordinates, they can continue to be the players' growth resources. Upon hearing this, the Rock Ghost King and the Hydra King were pleasantly surprised. They were worried about this just now. After all, those trusted subordinates had followed them for so many years. They couldn't bear to let them become the players' growth resources. However, they didn't expect Lu Wu to take the initiative to say it before they even mentioned it. Yes. The Rock Ghost King and the Hydra King bowed again. Very well. After saying that, Lu Wu's figure disappeared on the spot. After Lu Wu left, The four of them fell into silence again. Don't complain. If the players become stronger, you will benefit too. After all, we are now one force. As for those unimportant subordinates, you don't have any feelings for them. Don't be too conflicted, Tong Hua said as he saw Lu Wu leave. By the way, the artifact has the function to extract soul power and convert it into soul coins. I think you guys know about this. This is also the only currency that we use with other NPCs and players. At the same time, the game store is also open to us. There are many benefits. As he spoke, Tong Hua's gaze became a little malicious. He then walked to the Rock Ghost King's side and hooked his arm around his neck. Brother, we are all one family now. I'm a little short on money recently. If we want to compare assets, there are spiritual materials everywhere in your North Rocks. Why don't you cut down a few trees yourself and sell them in the store? Then, I can borrow some money to spend. Upon hearing this, the Rock Ghost King's expression changed. I don't even have soul coins. Why would I lend it to you? Never. Hey, you are too heartless. Now that we have the soul coin function, you will definitely cut down the trees secretly. Don't think that I don't know. What's wrong with lending me some money? I work so hard every day and only earn a few hundred soul coins. Don't you know how to sympathize with me? Tong Hua said angrily. Looking at the scattered wine bottles on the ground, the Rock Ghost King and the Hydra King looked at each other and quickly left. At this moment, the Rock Ghost King had the intention to cut down the trees and sell them himself. After all, in his opinion, the soul coins were a divine item that could help him break through to the middle stage of the Ghost King realm. He suddenly felt that this pirate ship made of vibranium was actually quite good.